Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world heroes among us and every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find
Rawr.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear and 82. How to weigh and compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Oh, welcome back.
Right here, Thursday night, once again.
And given one of the topics we're going to, because tonight we're talking fines, bans, and lasers.
I like one of these three things.
Well, we're going to have to change our opening song to "And You'll Get Fined."
Yeah.
Because there's been some interesting news this week.
Yeah. Got to see. That's the thing is nobody wants to get fined. I don't want a parking ticket. I don't want a speeding ticket. I don't want a fine for, releasing something on the wrong platform. Let's figure it out.
Then you may not want to go on Facebook in the future.
Oh, I definitely don't want to go on Facebook. In the future, the present, the past, never. But that's just me. That's preference.
I wish we hadn't done that Shark guitar review last month, because with the lasers theme, it would have been awesome to have sharks and lasers. I was like, damn, I missed an opportunity.
The sharks with freaking laser beams. Yeah. Gotta love that.
Let's jump to the cave and you'll see what I mean.
Let's go.
Whoa, that's not the layout.
There wasn't room in the cave for us.
This is the layout.
There we go.
Yeah. Now I can see. So to start, we're going to take a look at this, what happened yesterday, what was announced, which actually this is a similar case. This one was in New Mexico, but they were going after Meta in this case and saying, Meta's not on the up and up on some of what they're trying to do with their platform, and they're not always being responsible with how they deal with kids' accounts on their platform, which goes back to what we've been talking about for the last month with the ID verification and all this push we're seeing, not just with operating systems, but with countries, and the push for not just age verification, ID verification all across the board, in order to be able to regulate the way that we'd like these platforms to be. So in Meta's defense here, even though the ruling did come out against them, I think part of the blame in some cases actually falls on us and what we've allowed the platforms to do for the last 15 years, that now they're setting some laws and precedents.
And again, we've had a couple of discussions about the the whole who's responsible most when it comes to children and getting on the internet, and parents. It still comes back to that for me. I get that the platforms have to do something, but for people like you were trying to say, like for people who are trying to just access content that might be age restricted for various reasons, but they're just trying to access content, how many hoops did they have to jump through to access the content that they're trying to get to in order to prevent some kid who should not have access from getting there? But that's the thing is, how much of it comes down to the responsibility of the person who's getting that young person on the internet in the first place.
Well, and how much can the parents regulate, and how much can the platforms regulate, and how much can we actually legislate to try to get both of them to take care of these kids?
Yep.
And this particular lawsuit, there's another one that's going on in California that I think was the one that they made the news about yesterday. Both YouTube and Meta had massive fines put on them, which ironically, we think they're massive because you see numbers like 375 million. But when you compare what they're making every year in the billions to this tiny little slap on the wrist, some people consider this insulting. They want to see bigger fines, but I don't want to see the courts get like too crazy and like go setting like $1 billion fines for something that technically is not one company's fault. It's not one particular person to blame here. So they're kind of setting an example, but at the same time, there's more to actually go after here to try to fix this problem. It's not just a one platform problem.
Right. And some of the other legislation that I've seen, just, I didn't look too far into it yet, but I saw some of the thumbnails for it. They were talking about some of the platforms being sued for things like, knowing that they were predatory on children, or knowing that they were, causing body image issues and causing self-esteem issues and things like that. And things like that are known in the research. And the question is how much, how responsible are they for having known that and still going forward with their plans, as they did, where we've seen what it's done,
And in the case of the California lawsuit, it's about online bullying primarily, which again, who really is in charge of making sure that doesn't happen?
Well, that's where one of the part of what you were talking about, I mean, the de-anonymizing is part of it, because people lose that bully. They don't lose it automatically, but they are much less likely to be, as much of a bully if they have to have their name attached to it. Like if they're just anonymous, Billy, whoever, like, doesn't matter. They can spew whatever kinds of hate and insults they want because it doesn't come back to them. But if they have to put their name on it, it's a different story.
The more people have to take accountability for their actions online, the more they'll think about what they're doing online.
Right. And that's why I don't have a problem with, de-anonymizing a lot of this. Again, I'm not a social media guy, so I'm not the guy who's out there posting all the time anyway. So for me, it's a minimal impact either way, because I literally don't do Facebook or any of that stuff. So
and you know me, I don't have a direct problem with it either. Sometimes I have a problem with their approach. Sometimes I have a problem where you're actually going after the ones who are the innocents in all of this, and you're going after their privacy for the sake of the ones who are not so innocent about it. So, sometimes we're trying to fix the problem with the people who aren't the bad guys. And it's important to separate like what you're trying to solve and get rid of on the internet versus who you're actually going after in order to solve this problem. We shouldn't have to give up our absolute privacy in order to have a well-balanced, regulated internet. There's a nice middle there where you can still have privacy, but you do have to understand that when you go out onto the street, when you go onto the internet, you are part of a public environment where that privacy is limited to, like, what's in your pocketbook you don't have to show, but you'll be on camera, and you need to understand that.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've always just always felt myself is that if I'm not willing to say it in front of my mom, or I'm not really willing to say it in front of a judge in a courtroom, then I shouldn't say it. And that goes for email, that goes for trolling comments, it goes for anything. Like
that goes for writing lyrics and songs. If you wouldn't let your mom hear it, then you probably shouldn't say it.
Exactly. And again, it's not specifically about her. It's just a general rule of thumb that, like, thinking about people that are important in your life and thinking, would I say this in front of this person? And if the answer is no, and if there's a reason why not, then why are you saying it in the first place? Because I'm anonymous on the internet and this guy said mean things, so now I'm going to say mean things back. I always found that stuff so stupid, and tit for tat, all that kind of thing is just ridiculous, right? So to me, the whole thing, state how you feel. If somebody says, if somebody, injures you online or whatever with something that they've said, you can have a conversation about it, but it's not really a thing to have a conversation about online, right? I mean, don't take things that you see online to heart, because it could be an anonymous bully just trying to push somebody around, So that's where the anonymizing, getting rid of the anonymizing, to me, is a good thing, because then people will be at least a little more thoughtful about what they say.
Hey, if Facebook washed your mouth with soap every time you put up a post that you're not supposed to, you'd probably back off on saying
some people would have no room in their mouth for food anymore because they'd have the soap in there so much.
Yeah. And every once in a while you're gonna get that like kid who's gonna be like, I like the taste of soap, so fuck you.
Yeah, that kid.
Yep. Oh, and that kid. The second video, we're kind of getting a twofer out of this one, because originally I was gonna look at this one, which is Davies, Davy 504. We've been here, very popular bassist on YouTube, and I love his opinionated attitude. I love his bass techniques. He's a great bassist, and he doesn't have a small channel on YouTube. 13.8 million subscribers. Davey has worked his ass off on YouTube for a long time, built his channel up the right way, and he's been getting some crap from YouTube, some of the record labels. It all started like
cover songs.
Part of it's that, and in some cases, sometimes some of the ones who have complained about YouTube coming after them with their big channels, YouTube, when you have this many subscribers, you're getting paid pretty good from YouTube. When YouTube starts acting up on Rick Beato and Davey, there's a lot of money involved there sometimes, and sometimes it seems more like YouTube's actually looking at backing out of paying a well-productive channel, and Davies is one of them. And what he talks about here, the experience he's going through with YouTube, you're gonna laugh when you hear the initial song that like started this whole avalanche of problems. You're going to be like, oh, of course, because anybody who's been watching us for like the last 5 years, we've mentioned this song, so you can probably guess it.
I have an idea. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we should get at least one slap in for Davey, though.
Yeah. But I chose this video, which is kind of an extension of his video. Miss Crystal, always the best advisor in these kinds of situations, and she does an analysis of what he's going through, and gives some extra insight into how this situation with YouTube, if anybody out there who does have a YouTube channel, especially if you're a musically based one, we see this problem too with our different shows. And she's going to kind of break down some of what his experience here is, and look at it both from Davey's perspective and YouTube's.
Right. It's important to see both sides.
Yeah. And like I say, when it comes to Top Music Attorney, this channel, every week I am always checking out what's coming out there, because it's what's going on the internet and the music industry and the legal side of it all. Crystal, you kick ass.
Yes, indeed.
And then to shift to the banning, because this one is blowing my mind. just like, we've seen like, whoa, they're going to make operating systems age verify and all this other stuff that sounds crazy until you see a law come out on it. Um, Routers are getting banned, and it's not that like the old routers are all of a sudden going to disappear, because I have that one and some of the other ones that they're talking about in the future, routers that are coming from foreign countries. There's new rules, and they really came out with this fast. It's kind of really strict. I understand why some of this is happening, because they've been saying for almost a decade that like we really ignored on our
Security.
our networking hardware when it comes to network adapters, when it comes to the routers that actually get all those network adapters connected to the internet. There's always been suspicions that there might be backdoors. There might be potential security risks that could actually implement an entire country. It could be a security hole that you can't actually patch. And I'm not sure if this is going to actually fix the security issue that they're concerned with, but the fact that they actually did it is a law. And everybody out there with a router, which is all of you, pretty much, should know about this.
Except the ones that are watching by carrier pigeon. You guys are fine.
Yes, those pigeons are still cool.
Flapping them wings.
This one's coming from a freshie for us, Lon.tv. I follow him over on my channel, and I like this channel when it comes to tech news. And he kind of reminds me of, you remember Tech TV and CNET when they had their Leo Laporte. I used to watch him every night. And Lon's got that same kind of informative tech news.
Nice.
Oh, and then we're going to go into our lasers, and I just couldn't resist this one because Skillmake is going to show how he built an insane 260-watt laser that cuts metal, and
my only
it really does.
I see it. I'd be very nervous about that. I wouldn't want to slice my fingers off because I can see where that's pointing, and it would just take one.
Well, we're not suggesting you try this at home, but
no
you can at least
no lasers
watch,
at home.
You can safely watch and see this science experiment. And first thing I thought is we're finally getting into that Star Wars and like Space Wars. Like they're gonna be laser guns eventually. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. There's a few different ones, like whether it's laser guns. They've got one that they're doing for deep drilling. We'll look at that one night where there was one where they're using millimeter wave pulses basically to drill through the rock. So it's not an actual drill head grinding through the rock. They're using pulses to do it. So there's no
I thought
actual
it was
connection.
really smart. I thought that's how you drill nowadays.
Yeah, because the main problem they have with going super deep is the fact that it gets hotter and hotter as you go down. You have to deal with the heat. You have to deal with pulling all that pipe back out in order to put another section back on and go back down and do it again. Whereas with this, even though you're doing the same process to get further and further down the hole, there's still no actual contact. So you're not heating up a drill bit. You're just actually grinding your way down, and they can go way further down.
Yeah.
Which would be great for geothermal as well.
So we don't have any sharks, but we do have a laser that cuts.
We have a laser. And I could see how you could mount that on a shark. I mean, just instead of that little wrist thing, you could get that around a shark's head. Sure.
Well, and for the other laser, this one's a sound laser, which is another technology that like I've gone down this rabbit hole at different times. Using sound as a weapon was one that I looked at last year, and I'm curious as to what he does here and how he uses it.
I thought it looks to me like a laser microphone, so it's more like you see in the spy movies where like they're they need to hear what's going on in that conference room, but the windows are all closed, so they have a laser aimed at the window and they can hear because the laser bounce off the window. Actually, they can read from that what the sound should be.
Yeah. my curiosity with this is practical uses, weapon uses. I understand why you want to build it. I'm just wondering what you're going to do with it after.
Is it a solution looking for a problem? Yeah.
Yeah. And then to finish things off, just to go back to the music for a moment at the end, we looked at the MacBook Neo a couple weeks ago, and
Right.
it has made some noise. I am getting every other ad on my YouTube is like, you should get a MacBook Neo. And it's not that I wasn't thinking about it already, YouTube, but damn, you're persuasive. And
Back off, man.
when I saw this one, audio font does exactly what I wanted to do. When I first saw this MacBook Neo, and like my first question was, could this make a music machine? Because the reason I would want to buy any MacBook or Mac would be for music purposes. And um, audio font champ goes and tests out the important DAWs over on the Mac side to see if the Neo can really handle these different DAWs. And based on his results, it's really going to change my opinion on whether I want to get one of these cheaper Macs.
Yeah. And let's face it, with your project, I mean, you have some projects that have serious numbers of tracks and effects and all of that. So you are really putting things through their paces when you try it. So if you're able to use, any of these on that would be impressive. Yes.
Yeah. I'm curious as to how much stress testing he's going to do. But even just in general, to get the DAWs on the Neo, load up a, basic average size project and see if the machine can keep up with it. That's a start. The one thing I'm a little hesitant with the Neo is it doesn't come with a lot of resources on the RAM side and the storage side. There's a lot of things that you're going to want to hopefully be able to upgrade. If you are going to use it as a music machine, you don't want to be coming in with the bare minimums.
Right. That's the trick. And a lot of times you can't expand the memory beyond a certain amount. So, I mean, you can beef it up as much as you want to this point, but you cannot get to that point.
It's trickier with laptops, and it's even trickier when you get into proprietary Apple laptops where sometimes you can't even get into it. It is what it is. And if you want one with more stuff, you have to buy a different one with more stuff. It's part of the reason why I always was hesitant with their products in the past is they're not always very upgradable friendly. And storage is something I can plug in on the USB side for like storing my projects and things, but I need at least enough space on the system drive to get my music software on there and the VSTs and all the shit that I'm going to want to like use in music production.
Exactly. It's all got to get in there.
Yeah, but he is looking at all the important DAWs over on the Mac side.
Nice.
Any one of these I might want to use if I go over to Mac, especially Logic. Like that would be, hey, I got a Mac and I can run a good copy of Logic. I would actually be happy using Logic if I had a Mac.
Indeed.
Yeah, the Pro Tools, I would use that too, but I am curious if the Neo is going to be okay with that, because that one's a little resource hungry.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. So to get started, we're going to take a look at this settlement. That this one is coming from New Mexico, and it's same companies that are being targeted over in the California case. And I've heard rumors of some other states now considering some, and this kind of sets a precedence where even though Facebook or Meta might be kind of like, oh, 375 million, okay, here, leave us alone, they still got to be a little concerned with this kind of settlement, because it does open a door that's not going to close.
Right. But it's also that they didn't really it's not like they allowed it to happen. It's kind of, I'm sure they fought against it, and they were ordered to pay. So their defense failed, to prevent that. So
Yeah,
I'm sure they tried, but
I feel like timing here also played a factor into it. The jury that's sitting there on this, clearly they got a jury that has feelings about like Meta and the platform and whether it's positive or negative for our youth. And if you get 12 people to all agree on something like this, clearly the mood on platforms and how they behave and whether they're doing it responsibly is starting to change. And hopefully Meta like looks at this and doesn't just say, oh, it's a stupid settlement, but here's your 300. Hopefully they do think about like why this lawsuit came to be and why this settlement actually came to be.
Indeed.
And this is at Deep Humor, one of our newer channels that we started looking at when we were looking at the age verification stuff. And he's got good insight on it, videos on topical topics. And this one is a topical topic right now that you're going to see more of. It's not just New Mexico anymore.
Yep.
And it kind of makes me wish I did get into law, because I'd be a lawyer on this shit for sure.
So Meta has just been exposed big time for enabling predators and actually proven wrong in court, and they actually have to pay a $375 million fine. Before we get into the story, I'm sure a lot of you guys are looking at this number, and like me, you're pretty disappointed with this. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but honestly, these gigantic social media companies have crazy net worths. Meta's net worth as of March 23rd, 2026 is set to be around $1.6 trillion. So $375 million as a punishment to them is not going to dissuade them from doing anything malicious. If you had put $1 billion instead of $1 million there, and if they lost like, what is that, like a fifth or a sixth of their net worth, then they would be like, oh crap, actually we need to fix up because we just lost a huge chunk of our money. Meta has been ordered to pay $375 million after a jury found the company violated state law by misleading users about the safety of its platforms and allegedly enabling this thing that I can't say, otherwise the video will get demonetized. Remember, Meta, the same company that claims to be the champion of child safety, we need to make sure that there's age verification on every single platform in case you want to breathe. The ones that were putting in like $2 billion of lobbying into all of these politicians to lobby all these age verification laws across the country, the people who claim to want to take care of your kids, these are the same people that are endangering your children, and they have been proven guilty in a court of law. Obviously, we've talked about this Reddit post before. Shout out to this guy for making it. But yeah, this guy did a bunch of research and found that Meta is actually the company that is behind this whole global age verification push that we are seeing around the world. And it is pretty ironic, so ironic that it could cure anemia, that they are actually the ones that are endangering kids to begin with. Now, this isn't a surprising thing. I'm sure a lot of you guys could have guessed that Meta didn't have our best interests at heart when they were pushing all this age verification crap. But regardless, it is nice to see them get proven wrong in a court of law, and now they have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, because the jury actually found them guilty. So jurors found the Facebook and Instagram parent company violated New Mexico's consumer protection law following a lawsuit brought by Attorney General Raul Torres, who accused Meta of failing to protect children from predators. The jury's verdict is a historic victory for every child and family who has paid the price for Meta's choice to put profits over kids' safety. Meta executives knew their products harmed children, disregarded warnings from their own employees, and lied to the public about what they knew. Today, the jury joined families, educators, and child safety experts in saying enough is enough. So the reason why this is actually such a big deal is because the verdict marks a major legal win for the state and is believed to be the first time a state has prevailed at trial against a major tech company over claims it harmed children through its platforms, according to the New Mexico State Justice Department. So the lawsuit was filed in 2023 by the state, alleged Meta creating a breeding ground for child predators and misled users about safety protections on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. The $375 million penalty is significantly lower than the roughly $2.1 billion New Mexico officials had sought, though the jury awarded the maximum allowed under state law of $5,000 per violation. Even if it was the $2 billion that they were seeking out, as we just saw, Meta's net worth is $1.6 trillion, so it still would have not even put a slight dent into what Meta actually has. So Meta said it disagrees with the verdict and plans to appeal. Of course they do, because they are greedy and they don't even want to pay that amount of money, even though they are clearly in the wrong. We respectfully disagree with the verdict and will appeal, a Meta spokesperson told Fox. We work hard to keep people safe on our platforms and are clear that about the challenges of identifying and removing bad actors or harmful content. We will continue to defend ourselves ourselves vigorously and we remain confident in our record of protecting teens online. Right. So the court judge actually did give a statement about this, so let's go ahead and hear what he had to say.
So, on question 1, did Meta violate the Unfair Practices Act by engaging in an unfair or deceptive trade practice? The jury answers yes. Question 2, did Meta act willfully by engaging in an unfair or deceptive trade practice? The answer is yes. Question 3, in accordance with the civil penalty instruction and the instructions as a whole, how many willful violations did Meta commit by engaging in an unfair or deceptive trade practice? The jury's answer is 37,500. In accordance with the civil penalty instruction and the instructions as a whole, we determined that the civil penalty amount per violation in question 3 should be as follows. And with the answer between $0 and $5,000, the answer is $5,000. Question 5. Did Meta violate the Unfair Practices Act by engaging in an unconscionable trade practice? The jury's answer is yes. Question 6. Did Meta act willfully by engaging in an unconscionable trade practice? The jury's answer is yes. Question number 7. In accordance with the civil penalty instruction and the instructions as a whole, how many willful violations did Meta commit by engaging in an unconscionable trade practice? The jury's answer is 37,000. Question 8. In accordance with the civil penalty instruction and the instructions as a whole, we determined that the civil penalty amount per violation in question number 7 should be as follows. And with a number between $0 and $5,000, the jury's answer is $5,000. Ladies and gentlemen, did I correctly read that verdict? All right. On the record, the court notes that the jury has corrected the answer to question number 7 so that that number is not 37,000, but will be 37,500, which will make it the same as the jury's answer to question number 3, which was also 37,500.
That's the official verdict that has been given. And, you know, as we were saying earlier, hopefully Meta actually gets charged a lot more than that. And hopefully this actually opens the floodgates to a bunch of states and possibly even the entire United States investigating Meta and actually making it so they have to pay a bunch of money for all the crimes that they've committed. Again, think about how ironic it is that these guys are the ones trying to push all these age verification ID laws throughout the freaking country and trying to make it so everybody has to provide an ID to be able to breathe on the internet, and they're claiming that they were doing it for the kids. Now, Meta themselves have been exposed for actually endangering children across all their platforms, which just goes to show that this whole age verification thing has nothing to do with protecting the kids. They just wanted to collect information. They want to just collect all that biometric data and sell it so they actually know everything about us. And a lot of these companies are even using a certain company called Persona, which I actually wanted to get into before I end the video. Yeah, so guess who got called out by the Persona CEO? Me. He actually called me out for fear-mongering. Yes, that is correct. He actually said that I was fear-mongering because I pointed out the fact that Amazon is using Persona as their age verification vendor, and he nitpicked some semantics that I did, and he basically dismissed my entire argument through that. Now, I'm not going to get into that in this video. That'll be for the next video, because Rick actually wrote a big, long Twitter post where I feel like he made a lot of really bad points, and I feel like it should be addressed in a video. Rick, I'll keep it civil if you do, but if you're going to claim that I'm fear-mongering, you better get ready, because I'm going to show you line by line why you're wrong. I may be a stupid person, that is true, but I'm not nearly as shady as fucking Persona. I'll tell you that right now. But regardless, yeah, a bunch of other companies were using Persona as a third-party age verification vendor, and Persona obviously has a ton of security issues that they have been exposed for. But the point is, back to Meta, they're actually getting punished. And yes, I know that $375 million is not a lot compared to Meta's net worth, but at least it's something, and it kind of opens the floodgates for people to look at Meta and see their practices in terms of what they're doing could actually be really shady. Maybe a lot of other companies, states, countries, or whatever can actually start launching investigations into Meta and thinking, maybe this company that is rallying for age verification across the entire globe, maybe they are actually the ones that are the biggest threat to our children. And if a proper investigation is done, I'm sure they could find Meta guilty of a lot of things. So So yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the situation in the comments. Meta actually just got punished for endangering children, and hopefully they have much more lawsuits coming towards them in the near future. Please leave a like in the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more. See ya.
Damn it, deep humor. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, no sugarcoating. Come on.
But see, and I agree. And on the flip side, some of it I look at from a different perspective. Facebook taking the initiative. I mean, this lawsuit started in 2023, so the fact that it took 3 years to get sorted out, that kind of tells you something. But if the companies start to show some initiative there preemptively, like, hey, if we do start trying to get age verification and we push it before these lawsuits start coming out or these lawsuits get settled, maybe we won't get fined as much, because $5,000 for 37,500 cases, that could have been a lot worse if the company showed absolutely no regard for even considering approaching this themselves. So to Meta's defense there, I'd say they might have tried to take some initiative by preempting and starting the conversation on age verification, but they should have been doing that almost 20 years ago. So,
well, also realize how much pushback there would have been. I mean, the pushback there is now is one thing. Look back 20 years ago, the pushback would have been immense, even more, because there wasn't the 20 years of precedent basically leading up to that, you know. So
they didn't really know what they were going to be dealing with when they first built these platforms. It was just kind of like, let's make it and see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm one of the few people who, in the beginning, I thought it looked stupid, and I didn't want anything to do with it. And you know, I could see the dangers of some of it, but not in to the scope that it got to. But you know, a lot of the division in this country, I think, comes down to a lot of the siloing that has happened.
Absolutely, that's where they're making people take sides, and
yeah,
if
and
you
again,
post this, then I judge you based on your posts.
Yeah. And by staying completely out of that fray, you know, I'm completely off of that. Like, you know, I'm not in that silo. I'm not in that silo. You know, it's like I can go find information that's in the middle and go research and figure out what's going on.
Given all the charges that judge read, and based on the jury, what they had to decide on, if you were one of those jury members, do you think you would have done yay on every one of those charges easily, or there had
really
to be
depend
some
on the
compelling there had to be some compelling evidence that showed they intentionally were doing some of these things?
Well, that's exactly right. And that's why, to me, you know, just thinking about it in general, 12 jurors, you know, which are, again, they had to be agreed upon by both sides. You know, that's the way it works with juries. Like, you know, like you were saying, you can't just stack a jury with all people who feel one way, because they would not be agreed upon by the other side. And they both sides get to ask questions, and anybody who feels too strongly one way or the other is just dismissed. And, you know, we'll get somebody else. Fine. No big deal.
I'm really curious as to the makeup of that jury. How many young jurors, how many middle-aged, how many old jurors? Because at different stages and ages, you might have different opinions on social media platforms, especially Meta.
Yes, and again, comes back to the jury selection in the first place. Like, again, both sides had the chance to interview everybody who was going to be a juror, and were able to, you know, exclude people who they didn't feel were in, you know, the right mind frame, let's say, for, you know, this type of a thing. So to me, I wouldn't be concerned at all about the makeup of the jury, whether it was young, old, men, women, whatever. Just because I consider a jury of 12 is just a jury of 12, and you could put any 12 people in there and you'll get a result. But the act of how they select the jury is what will filter out the problem, or should filter out the problems for the most part.
Yeah, and I'm curious how they filtered it out. Like the first question, do you use Facebook? That would be the first question both sides want to ask a potential juror here.
And whether it's a yes or a no, it's not a disqualifier automatically. It depends on the follow-ups.
It shouldn't be. Right. Yeah, it shouldn't be a disqualifier, but you might want some people who actually don't have a tainted opinion of Facebook because they use it or because they don't. So you kind of have to be selective there.
You do, and also you don't want people who don't know what Facebook is, because they're voting on something they have no idea what they're looking at. So it's important to understand that there are reasons why you would exclude people. There's reasons why you would include people, and both sides had the options to do both. So
it is possible to have somebody who doesn't have a Facebook account but does know what Facebook is. You don't have
like me,
one,
for example,
but you know what Facebook is.
Right. So I would be an exception. But again, that's where, the yes or no on Facebook isn't an automatic. Okay, well, no on Facebook, then you're out of here. But, you know what Facebook is. Do you know people who are affected by Facebook? Do you have a negative or a positive opinion of Facebook? I mean, I would say I have a negative opinion of Facebook, but that's just because I don't use it. I saw the dangers. I don't like it. But that doesn't mean I have problems with people who use it. I understand people use it. I understand people who love posting pictures of their breakfast, and that's fine.
That would be my follow-up question if I'm one of the attorneys. Like, okay, you don't have a Facebook account, but you know people who do, and what's your feelings on those who do have a Facebook account? And do you think that they're stupid for using it, or do you think, it's no skin off my back? And
it's just not for me. That's the thing. Is I'm very much of a, I can choose things that I like, and I can choose things that I don't like, and I don't have to force other people on those same paths. Like, I know that not everybody's going to feel the same way I do. Not everybody is going to not like Facebook. Some people want to post pictures of their breakfast or whatever, their vacation. Who cares? They can do what they want. Like, they want to do it. They love keeping up with their friends that way. That's great. My mother is 84 years old, and she uses Facebook all the time.
Yeah,
so it's great.
My parents are using it too, which freaks me out. I'm like, oh my God. I never, but for them, it is a great way to talk to the family, and I see the appeal for them, and I don't see it as like something bad or dangerous for them. My nephew, I'm a little more concerned with. A couple more years, he's gonna be jumping on it, and hopefully they sort this stuff out before he does.
I will say I'm more concerned on the senior end as well. I mean, you mentioned you say you're not concerned about that, but I am concerned about the senior end as far as people targeting seniors for scams.
The way they use it, it's not likely that they're going to get fooled by anything on there. My only concern there.
We're talking about senior citizens and technology. We're talking about the people who still can't set the time on the microwave, and if they had a VCR, they wouldn't be able to set the time on that either.
Yeah, the good thing with my mom is if she was to get a scam pop-up on something like Facebook, she'd more likely come to me and double check than go clicking and doing something she shouldn't do.
Right. But that's the thing, is those are important conversations. And because she has you in her life, she's able to do that. But there's a lot of people that could fit her demographic who don't have a Tony in their life or me in their life to be able to say, hey, I got this thing and I don't know if it's real or not. So a lot of people are just clicking and going through and saying, oh, it says I have to click here and put in some information. So they put in some information, and that's not good.
And as far as the scamming goes, this isn't just a Meta problem. Matter of fact, yesterday's settlement wasn't just to Meta; it was to YouTube and Meta, which these different platforms and the scamming that goes on over on Facebook isn't the same kind of scamming that goes on over on YouTube. Twitch, you can see different scams over there. The more time you do spend on a platform, the more you're going to start to recognize like where the scamming is and where it's coming from.
Yep. And again, it could be your cell phone. You're just getting texts from somewhere asking you, telling you that you owe money for this or that or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of scams in all kinds of places. So just anything you're going to get, you have to, use that common sense filter. Be like, does this look like it's legitimate? I mean, if it was something legitimate, they'll send you a piece of mail, right? So, there's that.
Yeah, well, and I find it a little surprising that like these initial lawsuits that are setting precedents, this will open up like some doors. We're going to see more of these kinds of lawsuits as states start to establish like, if that jury thinks that Facebook is doing something bad and they got this much for that state, you're going to start seeing other states start thinking about that too.
Right. Well, not only that, but also if they don't agree with the way, anything about the way that the decision came down, they would want to, open another case similar along the same lines. And if they do come out to be conflicting, now you've got a precedent conflicting with another precedent. Now they bring it to the circuit court and try to figure out what's going on there. So.
Yeah, well, they already said Facebook is going to contest it.
Of course.
So, I mean, it took 3 years to get here.
That was the part I was going to say. The 3 years to get here. That is also not surprising from the standpoint that if you are bringing a lawsuit against a company like Meta or Facebook or whatever, a big company like that, you really got to have your ducks in a row. So taking time to get that stuff squared away is not surprising to me.
I can definitely see Meta going through a PR campaign for the next couple of years as they convince people that we're doing things to make things better and to fix things, and we're focusing on this. And you know how a company like that, and when they've got that much money, they're gonna try to use some of that money to do marketing to show that they're not the evil empire that some people might consider them to be.
Not just
looking
marketing,
at
but
you,
lobbying.
I'm looking at you, Deep Humor. But I agree.
Not just marketing, but lobbying as well. Trying to get legislators on their side to push the laws in their favor. Yeah,
they have definitely one of the companies that does a lot of lobbying. Yeah,
oh, yeah. For sure.
All the tech companies are in that lobbying mentality. They spend a lot of money to make sure that regulations and things kind of go their way.
Well, we've also talked about the fact that, legislators don't necessarily, they're not necessarily up on tech the way technology people are up on tech. So it is important for them to stay in the loop and to have knowledgeable people that they can, consult when it comes to things like this, because
and
I don't expect them to know everything about Facebook.
Ironically, when they bring in knowledgeable people to help inform them, sometimes those knowledgeable people are coming from the very companies that don't want to get sued like this. So it almost feels like the Fox is reporting to the Senate about the hen house.
Yeah, there is some of that. But again, it's you are able to find people in the industry that are not directly connected to the company that would be able to give you technical information. So it's a question of if they are asking the right people and asking the right questions.
Well,
and
that's
listening
why
to the answers.
when they do bring the tech experts in to inform the rest of the senators, I like when they use the neutral kind of tech experts, the security experts, the ones who are actually dealing with all the platforms. And I'd rather get the kind of advice here from a neutral party who really doesn't care about Meta or YouTube. Their job is to protect people from all of the dangers out there on the internet. Those experts have a more neutral approach and view to what we're dealing with here. I wouldn't want a Facebook expert coming in to testify on this unless you're questioning them on their practices, in which case they're not coming in to give technical advice. They're coming in to kind of say, like, this is what we do over there. This is how we do it.
Yeah, and that's why they would select that way. I mean, they're not going to bring in somebody from Facebook to, again, like you said, they're not going to pick somebody like that. They're going to make sure they bring in somebody who is not necessarily neutral or have no opinion about Facebook, but they're going to bring in somebody who is not directly tied to the result that way.
Yeah, I think it's funny when sometimes people are like, well, why did they bring in Mark Zuckerberg to testify and or to give tech advice? And
it's like, that would help. Yeah.
Well, he's not necessarily the guy that you actually need to bring in. He's not going to necessarily have any of the answers to the questions you're going to ask.
Right. And some of the companies I've worked for, the CEO did know everything about it because he wrote the software in his garage. He was the chief programmer. I mean, that's a different story. So most CEOs are not in that, not in that boat. So yes.
Yeah. They get managers to figure that shit out if they're good CEOs.
Exactly.
So at Deep Humor, I like these topical topics and, this whole ID thing, and especially with these platforms and these kinds of lawsuits that we are now seeing. Like yesterday's was a big deal too. I like your coverage.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
Yeah. And speaking of those, I like covering the industry. Ms. Crystal, you kick ass every week. And with this one, like I said, the initial video that I started with was the one from Davey, at Davey 504, and I think he is at Davey 504 on YouTube.
Yep.
Yes. 13.8 million strong.
Yep.
And a hell of a bassist, mixes comedy and bass. And, sometimes that serious overtone that he has, is not actually so serious. He reminds me of Stevie, he's just got a good sense of humor about things, and one hell of a bassist.
Oh, yeah.
And when it comes to Miss Crystal, her understanding of the industry and how things work in this case with a platform like YouTube, how they're going after him, and um, he feels like he's being victimized a little bit by YouTube. And there are other channels out there too that have complained or been concerned about the same situation, especially when they get into the millions of subscribers. Um, really curious how Crystal's going to balance, what YouTube's trying to do and what Davey's trying to do.
Yep.
And this is at Top Music Attorney, and I also put in her links to her other channels because she's covering YouTube with killer channels. And for this one, she's gonna go through the Davey video and kind of bullet point certain things that he's been experiencing, and some of them are going to sound familiar, especially when, like I said, when you hear the song that triggered the avalanche of other ones, you're gonna laugh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Should not be a surprise.
Yeah, I doubt it will be.
You're gonna be like, oh, of course.
No.
Davey's pissed and saying that record labels are trying to shut down his channel. Is Davey able to fight back, and do his videos qualify for fair use? I'm a lawyer that specializes in this stuff, so we're gonna jump into it. Let's go.
So I've been on this platform for a very long time, and I've watched the YouTube algorithm change its mind more times than I can count. But things are really going downhill recently. One of my latest uploads got copyright claimed 8 times. 8 claims on 8 minutes of content. That's literally 1 copyright claim per minute. It has to be a Guinness World Record, right? I really don't know if that's a YouTube problem, a music industry problem, or just my ultimate destiny as a bassist. But whatever it is, it's completely ridiculous. These claims are on a video where I showcase some epic bass lines. That was clearly an educational video, and that's clearly fair use. Then in another video, I just showed a clip of me dressed as Sylvester Stallone, playing a very famous song for like 4 seconds, and the entire video got claimed.
Alright, so according to section 107 of the Copyright Act, whether something qualifies as fair use has to do with 4 different factors. What's the purpose of his video? Now, he said it's educational in nature. Is he making money off of his YouTube so it's for profit? We could argue yes, but it is educational. 2, what's the nature of the copyrighted thing that he used, right? Is it a song? If it's a song, it gets a little bit more protection than stuff that is not creative. How much was used, right? Did he use the whole thing, or did he just take a couple of seconds? And number 4, what's the effect on the market? Did he destroy the marketplace so no one wants to hear the original song ever again? Because, well, they heard it through his video, and maybe they'll come back to only his video forever on after?
As 10 videos, 8 were copyright claimed for similar reasons. With all these claims, they are effectively shutting down my channel indirectly. It's a new strategy. If I make no revenue, I will eventually stop, right? Which doesn't even make any sense, because me playing their songs benefits them. And just to prove my point even further, I have a live update for you. Literally, while I was sitting down here editing this video, I got another copyright issue. But this time it's not just a standard claim where they take the revenue. No, it's a full-on worldwide block. What's the song that triggered this massive international security response? Of course, Hotel California by the Eagles. Because me playing a bass solo is a huge threat to a song that came out half a century ago. You know, usually even the strictest labels will just claim the video, take the money, but at least they will let people enjoy the music.
And he said, it's a new business strategy. He goes, why would you put a claim on my video or strike my video or block my video if what I'm doing ultimately gets new eyeballs on the original, which I think is a really good argument. But he raised a really good point. He goes, is this a new strategy that these labels are taking? And we're going to come back to that.
Band management has always been famous for just straight up blocking videos. I thought that in the year 2026 they might have finally grown up. I guess I was wrong. But it does highlight something incredibly fun about YouTube's priorities. This platform has the technology to instantly detect a song and nuke my video before I even publish it. Yet for some reason they are completely powerless to stop the army of scammers in the comment section. If you scroll down in many of my videos, you will probably see them. It's been years of this and the problem is still not solved. There are still bots impersonating me, stealing my profile picture, and replying to your comments telling you won a prize and need to message them ASAP on Telegram. It is amazing to me that a multi-billion-dollar tech company can build an AI that finds a copyrighted bass frequency in milliseconds, but they can't ban an account named text me on Telegram @officialdavid404. It's ridiculous, but in honesty, all we can do now is just laugh. Just stay safe down there, report the bots, and don't give them your money. Please. Now, to be totally fair, the system used to be even worse than it is now. Years ago, if you made a cover of a song, even if you played every single instrument, the rights holder could just take 100% of the revenue, all of it. You could spend days arranging all the parts only for somebody else to get paid for your hard work.
Okay, so basically I thought it was a good point, right? Why isn't YouTube regulating all the issues? Which I think is fair when he has clear trademark issues and scammers who are pretending to be him. But in the evolution of how it used to be, you know, there used to be strikes, right? It was a scary time. If you do a reaction video, even a cover song, you were at risk of just getting a strike. 3 strikes, your channel gets deleted. And then the labels did deals with YouTube and then would start claiming everyone's videos and taking 100%. And to his point, he goes, well, if I made a whole video, like an educational video, and there's a tiny little piece of someone else's song in it, why is the owner of that tiny little piece claiming the entire video?
And YouTube finally introduced the concept of revenue sharing. The logic is pretty straightforward. If you perform a composition without using the original sound recording, the revenue gets shared between you and the original creator. On paper, that sounds fair, but in reality, the word shared is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Let me show you the reality. This video got around 800,000 views. My shared revenue for almost 1 million views, $224. Wow. Just for reference, 800,000 views should make around $2,000, and that's a low estimate. This video made about $8 in the first 4 days. My latest one, 300,000 views, $24. Now, sometimes where a video goes live, YouTube gives you the option to try and remove those claims by editing the video in post. You can cut a section out or mute part of the audio, and yeah, it actually works. But if I were to go in and fix all these claims by muting and cutting things, I would completely break the core ideas of many videos. Could you imagine if gaming channels had to deal with this kind of stuff too? Imagine if game publishers could just step in and say, you played our boss music for too long, or you showed our 3rd level and accidentally said the main villain's name, you're gonna get copyright claim. There would be an absolute revolution on this platform. But because it's music, everyone just kind of accept that this is the normal way things work. That's just the reality.
And the fact that record labels have done deals with YouTube so that they can still get paid, the thing is, if they're already getting paid on the platform, they're collecting the revenue, either sharing, and to his point, he's like, this isn't sharing, they're taking like the lion's share of the earnings from these videos. To the extent we all just accept that, that's just how it is. When the labels come and do additional things, and then they file strikes, and then they threaten to sue you if you don't pay them more money, but they're already collecting on YouTube, we're left here scratching our heads.
This is not just about the money, it's about the fact that claimed videos often just straight up die after getting claimed. I was watching a Moist Critical video and he actually showed exactly how much he has made in his whole YouTube career, and he was talking about a number around $35 million. When that number popped up on my screen, my first thought was, I picked the wrong YouTube niche. While Charlie is out there yapping about internet drama, I'm over here trying to convince a piece of wood with 4 strings to not get me sued into the shadow realm. I've also seen this clip of Jacksepticeye saying he has made $400,000 from playing just one game. I was like the meme, you guys are getting paid. Now, one thing Charlie brought up in his video is that a lot of big YouTubers kind of lie to their audience, or at least heavily misrepresent how much money they're actually making. He said creators at the top should be more transparent, but I have to slightly disagree when it comes to music content. The difference is incredibly real. For a lot of music creators out there, that lower ad revenue isn't just fake modesty or clever branding strategy, it's the actual harsh reality. We are on the exact same platform, pulling similar numbers of views, but dealing with completely different rules.
So interesting, and he's right. Different content gets paid differently on YouTube. So he's saying, by comparison, I don't get paid these numbers. And obviously he is a huge creator on YouTube.
So actually disputing the claims. In theory, if you get hit with a claim, you think it's wrong. Like when you're clearly operating under fair use, you have the right to dispute it. But in reality, whenever I dispute a claim, there is always a very real risk that the rights holder decides to escalate the situation. And if it escalates, you run the risk of getting a copyright strike. And remember, you get 3 strikes, your account is gone. So just think about this scenario for a moment. You spend years of your life building up your channel, you cultivate your audience, build a massive catalog of videos, and then the system expects you to gamble all of it just because a massive record label may or may not have the legal right to claim 12 seconds of your bass playing. That is exactly what I do, and honestly, what the vast majority of music creators do is absolutely nothing. We just sit there and do nothing.
This is literally why I do these videos on this channel talking about what you guys need to do when you get these claims. You cannot back down. What we're finding is that these record labels are very much positioning themselves as the bully, and they're not really going to make a problem for you if you don't fight their monetization claims. But the standoff happens if you appeal the claim, because they have to actually file a lawsuit. That's why it gets scary, because you go, well, if I appeal this and it says they may sue me, a lot of people can't stomach getting through just that. Understandably so. But the truth is that if you are calling their bluff and you do qualify for fair use, and this is why, especially if you have an entire YouTube channel dedicated to what you do, you have to consult with a copyright attorney so that when you're like, no, this is fair use, appeal, you can feel real good about it.
Even with all the frozen revenues, the strikes, and all of this, I was joking when I said I picked the wrong niche. I love what I do, and I get to see you guys pick up instruments, start slapping, and this is a beautiful privilege, and I'm deeply grateful for it every single day. The system might be broken, but the community is not. But because I've sat here and watched so many of my videos get claimed, I also feel the need to be honest with you guys about something. The only reliable way I make revenue nowadays is thanks to sponsors.
You know what I think? I think that at these labels, I bet they have KPIs, right? So key performance indicators, which businesses do a lot. They'll give their team goals, metrics that they have to hit, especially because we are seeing so many manual claims being put on content creator videos. So he's saying out of nowhere, he has all of these new claims on his content. And to his point, he goes, well, if my stuff was like ripping off other people or whatever, YouTube would have already flagged it the second I uploaded it into my account, which is true. But I would not be surprised if it turns out that these labels are incentivizing their employees to go and file as many claims as possible because it results in a payday for the labels. And boy, I'm sure they need to account to their shareholders. There's no way Davey doesn't find this all very daunting, but Davey, hang in there. And guys, go over, give his videos some love. I'm top music attorney Miss Crystal, and I'll see you on the next one.
It's kind of cool having like a channel crossover like that. I'd like to see more of those.
Absolutely. Good stuff. And again, he's right on all fronts. And, that's one of those things where he's had, the work that he's put in over the years. I mean, that's cultivating the channel, the audience, all of that, the catalog, ridiculous. I mean, a lot of work goes into all of that. So it's perfectly, understandable that he expects to get compensation for it.
Well, and he made some great points and observations that Crystal also agreed with him. The whole idea that like if this was something going on in the gaming videos, and if gaming companies started doing that with like the music that's playing along with the game, because it's music in the game and the gamers are actually playing the game. If they had to start like snipping and cutting all of that, then what's left of the video that's actually watchable?
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing.
when it comes to the way, like, sometimes Davey is like giving instructional videos, techniques, and if he had to cut like 8 seconds here or 10 seconds there on something that you're trying to show like a technique and you need to play a melody to do that, how do you make an instructional video at that point? They're kind of neutering him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, in some cases they'll have, things like that are behind a paywall in some place, with some people's accounts. Like they have, their own home base. Like instead of having it all on YouTube, they have their own home base channel. And on there, you have things that are, behind a paywall or whatever, where, it's not the same setup. So it's not quite the same.
Well, and YouTube does it for YouTubers like this, and then the big ones that are monetized. There are options to subscribe to the channel as a member, and because you might get exclusive access to content in the private sector, where some of these copyrights aren't an issue when it's material being used in a private library. If it's publicly accessible, of course, Hotel California is going to bite you in the ass. We've been saying that for years.
I knew it was either going to be that or it was going to be the I think it was Earth, Wind, and Fire was one that we had at one point as well.
That would be the other one that you cannot play anywhere. No exceptions. If you try to dispute those, like he mentioned, you can contest, and I like that Crystal was emphatic about that. Like, do that. If you really have a legit argument for fair use, don't be intimidated by YouTube in that case. Do contest it, but understand that if you contest the wrong thing, it can blow up in your face. And if you try to contest Hotel California, it's not going to work.
No.
There are certain ones that there's no exceptions for, and it's not even YouTube who's actually the one who cares about Hotel California. It's the song owners of that one, because they had a bad breakup and this song is mine and nobody can use it. It's one of those situations.
Yeah. Tied up.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate too, because that's such a great song.
Yeah. And there are ways around that, but you do have to go buy the license in that particular case. Otherwise, pick a different song.
Now, I can admit that we played that at rehearsal last week, and I don't have to pay money for that, right?
Yeah. Well, you remember one of our first couple of years when we were doing this, we were looking at a AI MIDI kind of analyzer, and in the video, they were feeding the AI different songs and the MIDI was trying to like write a variation on the songs, and Hotel California was one of the ones that the AI tried to make it didn't even sound like Hotel California to me. And that one,
enough of those points hit on the algorithm, and it was like, oh, nope.
Yeah, and that one actually shut down our video on YouTube, the whole video, not just the 8 seconds that the example was. I was like, damn.
Exactly. Yep. They were serious about that.
Yeah. And one last point there. Considering how big his subscriber base is, how long he's been doing it, and when you first start on a YouTube channel, and especially if you're doing something like this, because I saw this with Ange. When we started doing our YouTubes in the early days, that first year, she had to contest and she had to actually, you know, kind of argue with YouTube till a human over there finally looked at our channel, our content. Uh, every time she contested, she won. So eventually, they will start to realize, okay, you have this kind of channel, and these little, uh, uh, they're not copyright strikes in those cases. They're just recognizing, like, you're using this song from this artist, and all ad revenue gets like he said, shared between the content creator and the material that they're using. It took us a couple of years before YouTube took Ange serious enough to stop hitting her with so many of them. And when she did contest them, it got easier and easier because they got to know the channel. With Davey, what's a little unusual here is he's been doing it for so long and didn't run into any of these problems till a decade later. And I can understand why he feels like, wait a minute, why all of a sudden? Why now? And
I
it's
have a
like,
theory on the why now, actually.
feel like personal at that point.
The why now to me feels like AI. Like
Yes.
a lot of the people at the label could just be asking AI to like find me people to hit with strikes, and boom, like just new algorithms, or whether it's just a new way of going after things or new ways of searching for the content that they want to block or try to block.
Yeah.
I think there's probably some of that involved too.
I would absolutely agree that the reason why you're seeing some of these changes is because it's not a human doing it. They didn't have enough humans over there to keep up with all the videos being uploaded. There's more videos being uploaded than there are humans on the planet.
It's crazy. the amount of new content being created is crazy.
Yeah. Always great, Miss Crystal at Top Music Attorney, and also check out at Davey 504. You like slap bass? He's the king.
One for Davey.
Yeah. So now we're going to get into some of the bands that are going on, and I'm not talking music bands. I'm talking router bands, which I really didn't think they could pull this off. Um, it seems like it's going to be hard to really regulate and track this, although the way they're attempting to do it is kind of like right at the core here by telling foreign companies that are shipping these routers in that we've got new rules, and if you don't comply with these rules, you cannot sell these products in our country. It seems a little bit extreme, but considering what their security concerns are here, I guess there's no other way to approach this than through law.
Yeah. And maybe it turns out having your router hardware, like assembled and manufactured in places that are that far away might not be the greatest thing in the world.
The thing that I wonder here is, with all the legacy routers that are already security risks and you can't just fix that, my guess is they're gonna, if those older routers that these companies have to take responsibility for, if a security hole is found in them, it's going to be up to those router companies to get those firmware updates out there, which routers have. And you should update your firmware on your routers every once in a while, because that's more important than Windows updates and stupid shit. Router firmware updates can actually fix a security problem.
And how many of us have done router firmware updates in the last 2 years?
It's not for the lighthearted.
It's not for the lighthearted, and it's not a lot of the consumer base, let's say.
Yeah, I've done at least 4, and it only in 2026. So the year's still young.
Yeah. Well, you have an unusual network environment for a home.
Well, I also switched a couple of routers in the last couple of months, so it was a necessary evil. So at Lon Seidman, this is a freshie for Talkin Shhh I.T, but I've been visiting Lon over on my YouTube, and this one I couldn't ignore. It's big news, and for IT guys like me and network administrators, this is going to complicate some things in the future. But this, I think, goes right in line with the other ID and efforts we're seeing with the operating systems. The planet is locking down. Internet and internet security is cracking the whip, and whether it's America who does it first or Europe, because they've got some pretty crazy standards over there, some of this stuff is going to be like regulated by these countries.
Now, would you say it's more the wireless side of things that's the problem, or would you
No.
think even wired routers, it's all the same?
I don't think it matters whether it's a wireless or a wired one. The concerns are not on the protocols, the concerns are the backdoor, allegedly. There, Ange, I used the word. The suspicion of backdoors on our network cards and our routers has been there since we started making them. So there's a lot of chips that get made that don't get made in this country. When it comes to the network chips, the ones that are actually doing all the security in these things, some of that is very proprietary and taboo knowledge that like they don't release out the specs on. And
now we've both been
there's reason to be concerned there's reason to ask questions.
Now we've both worked with this hardware going back a long way, so even to other protocols, even to all other things. But you remember the 10-100 days. You remember when it was only 10 megabit. You remember when it went to 10-100. You went to gigabit. Like
cables.
Each of the iterations. But the idea was things were changing so fast at certain points that like if this were a question, for example, in the days of the 10 megabit routers, right? Yeah. You got 10 megabit stuff, and then all of a sudden people are up to 100 megabits. So now those 10, like if there were security issues with the 10 megabit routers, most of them are going away anyway because people, they need the speed. So they're going up to the 100 megabit and then going to the gigabit, like same idea, like you're going up. So how much are we going to naturally pace out of it? You know what I mean? Like how much are the new routers going to be required to comply with certain things so that anything sold after this date has to comply, but then anything before that?
How long did it take for 10 base T to actually get phased out? I mean, it was a couple of decades almost. And
but everything's compressing now though with AI and everything else. So the time frames are getting shorter. So like it might have been 10 years before, but now that'll be 2 years or a year. It like keeps getting shorter.
It got easier to shift as we got into Ethernet and going from 10-100 to gigabit, and now you're seeing 5 and 10 gigabit. So you're right, like because now it's easier to actually move forward with new hardware, and a lot of people are actually doing it because they want the speeds. Some of this could happen in the next few years, and maybe they can fix this problem in a couple of years. I don't think so, but at least if they're gonna do this and they're gonna address the rules of routers in the United States in the future, and the hardware does need to be completely open about like what's going on in those chips. This is kind of like China needs to see the writing on the wall there. If they're network manufacturers, which they're the majority there, you're going to need to be a little more open about like what you're doing in these chips. And there better not be a surprise backdoor, because we're looking now, and if we find them, your company is blacklisted in this country, and good for them if they actually go that way, because some of that hardware is as malicious as these viruses and codes that they talk about.
And that's the thing is, even searching for it isn't necessarily going to find it, because it could be something with a target date. It could be something where it's only active when you go to activate it, So I mean, there's numerous ways where you're not going to find it now, even if it's there, but it's good that they are looking, because they'll find the easier ones to find.
In some cases, you would only find it if you're looking constantly and you're analyzing every packet and everything going on. You have to be watching like a hawk to catch some of those kind of things. It's not going to be the average everyday admin who's going to like realize that hardware is compromised. It's going to be somebody who's looking at it constantly.
Yep, exactly.
So let's see what some of these rules. If you got to build a router in the future, the times are changing.
Hey everybody, it's Lon Seidman. You've probably heard by now that the U.S. government has effectively banned every new router from entering the U.S. market. Now, any existing router that is already FCC approved, like this TP-Link one here that you can find at Target, these will be allowed to be sold because they're not new. But anything new that might want to get an FCC approval now has to go through a process to get it. And we're going to dive into that right now. Now, before we dive into the topic, I do want to let you know that this video is being brought to you by all of you. That includes everyone who watches and subscribes to this channel on a regular basis, along with those of you who have contributed to the channel, either through my donor box page at lon.tv/support, through the YouTube membership program, through Patreon or Floatplane, and of course through the super thanks that you can also do on these videos. I do appreciate everyone's support because watching and or contributing all help keep the lights on around here, and I do enjoy bringing this news and analysis to you. So let's dive into this topic a bit. Now, this whole thing went down last night. In fact, before the media started reporting on it, I did see this posted on the FCC's social media platforms. This fact sheet I found on Facebook, and this detailed the action on foreign-made routers. And for a minute I was thinking there's no way they could ban every single foreign router, but apparently they are. So there's going to be a lot of scrambling by every maker of routers to meet these requirements. But as you will see at the bottom here, the action does not prohibit the import, sale, or use of any existing device models. So for example, TP-Link can continue making this model. They can continue importing these from overseas, and they will not be affected by this new order. It's only new products that have to go back out for additional FCC certification. So the immediate impact is not significant. However, I'm sure many companies have products in the pipeline. All of those now are going to have to meet this new order in some way, shape, or form. They are providing a conditional approval, and that can come from either the DOW or the DHS. And if they get that conditional approval, and we'll talk about what the criteria are in a minute, then they will get authorizations for new products. But those conditional approvals require some commitment from the manufacturer that they're going to start making stuff in the US rolling forward. So there is a bit of a hurdle here for many of these companies to meet, because they're going to have to, at some point, make equipment in the United States and give the government a commitment that they're going to do that. Now, many people thought that the US government was going to ban TP-Link routers because that's been something both the Biden and this Trump administration have been considering. And that came because there were a number of vulnerabilities in some recent attacks that focused on TP-Link products, and they were concerned that perhaps the Chinese government put some kind of backdoor into these TP-Link devices that could be exploited if there was ever a big conflict with China. And you think about how cheap and plentiful these things are across the US telecommunications network, and how powerful the processors in these things can be for exercising attacks. That was the big concern of the government. But back in February, the government stepped back a little bit in the hopes of maybe tamping down some of the tension with China. And it looks like this new solution might be along those lines, where they're just going to treat every router manufacturer equally, and therefore they're not going to target any specific one. Now, you can find more about this on the FCC's website at lon.tv/FCC routers. And the reasoning behind this, of course, is about a national security determination. On March 20th, the FCC received a national security determination regarding the unacceptable risks posed by routers produced in foreign countries. And the concern here is that we may have routers that have vulnerabilities on them, but there could also be routers that have vulnerabilities designed into them that could be exploited that may not be visible to the government. So they pointed to some examples of prior attacks like Volt, Flax, and Salt Typhoon cyber attacks. And these were very sophisticated attacks that had these software agents living inside of routers waiting to be executed. And so this is really the basis that they're making for this blanket ban. And if we dive into a US government press release from the prior administration, they talked about breaking up the Volt Typhoon network. And this was using privately owned SOHO routers, just like this one here, to create a botnet that could conceal the People's Republic of China as the origin of an attack against the US and other foreign victims. And these hacking activities included a campaign of targeting critical infrastructure organizations in the US. And if they're coming from somebody's router off of a cable modem somewhere, you'd never know what the source was, because one command from overseas to all of these routers would then have the attacks originate from the routers themselves, and it'd be hard to trace back where the attack originated from. What was most interesting about this Typhoon case was that the vulnerable routers were at their end-of-life status. So the manufacturers kind of abandoned them and stopped doing firmware updates, but they were still connected to the internet somewhere. and that was how the exploits were taken advantage of. Now, what was interesting about this case is that the government actually hacked those routers again to disconnect them from the botnet. So you think about these folks who just had these old routers in their houses, had no idea that there was a cyber war going on inside of their home, but that's exactly what happened here. And I don't think this was the first time that the government actually proactively hacked into consumer products to protect them from an attack. And you'll see they did get a court authorization for this. That's in the last sentence there. And they did a bunch of things to, first of all, disconnect these devices from the botnet and then blocking additional communications to keep them off in the future. I do believe those who were impacted got notified after the fact by the government that they needed to maybe get rid of the router, and perhaps that the government had been inside their network fixing things. But this is the reality that we're in these days. So why don't we talk about this covered list and what this means. So right now, every router, even if it's made by a US company, if that device is manufactured overseas, it is now on the covered list. And as of today, you can't import a new version of it. Again, the old ones are fine, but anything new that's up for FCC approval has to show that they've been granted some authority by the DOW or the DHS that they can be produced. So right now, on the list of exceptions, this is in the conditional approval section of the FCC's website, there is not a single router manufacturer that is currently compliant. And so it's going to be a while, I think, before these companies get these conditional approvals. Right now, the only devices that have been granted such approvals are drones, because there is a similar order now on foreign-made drone systems. And so we'll start seeing a very similar process here applied to routers. So what is that process, and what do manufacturers have to provide to the government to get their conditional approval here? Well, there is a document for that, and you can find that at lon.tv/routeronshore. And there are a couple of things that they have to do. The first is they have to disclose their manufacturing and supply chain. That includes a detailed bill of materials for the router for which the applicant is seeking conditional approval, country of origin of all components, entities responsible for IP ownership of the software updates for the router, justification on why any foreign manufactured router is not currently manufactured in the United States, including why these foreign sources were selected and whether alternatives exist, locations of manufacturing, final assembly, and testing, because what we're seeing are a number of companies now, and I think presumably to avoid tariffs, have been making their products partially in China and then sending them over to another country for assembly. So for example, this TP-Link router, which is a Chinese company, has their products getting stamped with made in Vietnam for final assembly. And they're trying to get around some of those loopholes that were out there, at least on the tariff side. So that's another issue. Country of origin for any onboard software and firmware. Quantitative assessment of supply chain concentration by country expressed as both a percentage and production volume, and identification of any single points of failure in the supply chain for the router, including sole source suppliers, the country of those sole source suppliers, and yada, yada. And then they've got to do some other things. They have to come up with a plan for establishing manufacturing in the United States. So that requires a detailed, time-bound plan to establish that manufacturing process, a dedicated point of contact or office responsible for implementing the U.S. manufacturing, a description of U.S.-based manufacturing and assembly for the router, including the percentage of components that will be manufactured in the United States versus those coming from elsewhere, a description of committed and planned capital expenditures, and an inventory of the progress made on the U.S. manufacturing and onshoring plan. So this is not something that they can just commit to in the future. It looks like the government will hold them to it, although that will depend on what administration comes after this one. But at least in the short term, they have to have real plans for onshoring their router manufacturing, or else they will remain on the covered list and be unable to sell their products here in the U.S. or import them. So what are the outcomes here? Well, I would hope one would be that we'll see less orphaned firmware, because that was a big issue, irrespective of whatever vulnerabilities might be built in. If you have routers that they stop making and stop supporting and customers are still using them, that becomes an issue. And who pays for that replacement of the router over time if the customer can't afford to do that? There's a lot of things that have to come into that. So perhaps we'll see less orphaned firmware in the future. Another concern, though, are government backdoors here in the U.S., because if we're finding the government is logging into people's routers and patching security vulnerabilities themselves, even with a court order, We could see a scenario where perhaps the government's going to require in all these top secret reviews of these plans some way for the government to get into these routers, maybe to exercise search warrants or something else, and that should be of concern. And unfortunately, those criteria will likely be opaque to the public. We'll have no idea. But of course, as you know, with telecommunication companies, they did have to provide means by which the government could listen in on your phone calls, for example, with a court order. And it's possible that that might be one of the requirements here that these companies have to agree to get themselves off the list. Now, what about workarounds for those of us who like to do workarounds? Well, the first thing we need to do is figure out how the FCC defines a router for the purposes of this regulation. And they are following the national security determination, and they are in turn relying on an NIST definition, which says that a router is designed for a residential use and can be installed by the customer. Routers forward data packets, most commonly IP packets, between networked systems. But what about something like this? This is a computer. This computer happens to be made in China. But this is not subject to the ban, even though it has 2 Ethernet ports on board, because its primary marketed purpose is not to be used as a router, but rather as a computer. It can, of course, be turned into a router if you have software installed like pfSense, for example, which is an open source security platform. You could put it on here, and this suddenly becomes a router. But because it's not marketed as such, it's not subject to that. And one could argue that open source software like pfSense can be audited by the government. I am sure they have. So there's probably a better layer of security, or at least as far as the government is concerned, about whether or not your pfSense router might get taken over by a backdoor. They could probably find the backdoor in the software, but there are ways to get around this. And manufacturers might try, but if they try to market something as a router, that of course will then trigger the regulation and get them pulled off the market. So what are some of the reactions to this so far? Well, PC Mag has been doing a good job collecting some, and they've already heard from TP-Link. I would bet you they're kind of relieved by this, because everybody now is under the same rules that TP-Link was thinking they would be under just on their own. And TP-Link said they're confident in the security of their supply chain, and they welcome the evaluation of the entire industry. Netgear also commented. Netgear is a US-based company, but they market their products overseas. They may actually benefit the most from this, because they could probably more easily spin up a US-based presence, given the fact that they're based in this country. And they commended the administration and the FCC for their action toward a safer digital future for Americans. A lot of times, market-leading companies often welcome regulation that more heavily restricts their competitors, so I would imagine they would welcome what's going on here. So I think in the short term, we'll definitely see Netgear products meet that list pretty quickly, and perhaps others will follow in suit. So that is the router ban in a nutshell. I'll keep an eye on this story overall. I'm not all that concerned about it. I think most companies will be able to demonstrate their security and get off of that covered list and onto the exception list in the short term. And we'll see how many companies over the next couple of years actually start basing their manufacturing operations here in the US. That will do it for this one. Until next time, this is Lon Seidman. Thanks for watching.
Oh, great information, Lon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as you said, like as we talked about, there's the pace at which the hardware has to become, obsolete. And it's one of those things that if the speeds at which networks are moving are going to increase the same pace that they've been increasing, people are going to be out of the hardware in a couple of years anyway. So it is one of those things. If the existing ones are fine and they're making these rules now, they're basically saying, okay, from here, we're making a new point going forward, and we'll, try to keep it, onshore and as secure as we can.
And to his ending point there, that like the businesses, the ones that actually do have network engineers and administrators to deal with these things, they're going to be more reactive and effective to this and be prepared for it. So they're probably going to be in good shape, because it's always about security and networks, and you do have to actually upgrade equipment and move forward when it comes to security in a corporate environment. It's the residential side of this that I'm like, how's this going to work? Because there are way more residential routers out there than there are business ones. And like you said, the residential ones, don't always have an IT guy to come in and do a firmware update. So if what he suggested there, if the United States decides to put in their own backdoors to make sure that any router that's going to run in our country, we can access and we can patch if we feel it's necessary. I understand why they would do that, but I wouldn't I wouldn't like the feeling of like, okay, you 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 have permission to go into my router whenever you feel like it. That just doesn't sit well with me.
I had a feeling like I was going to say we were going to probably end up on opposite sides on that one. As far as like me, I liked the idea, like when he mentioned that the United States government was able to go in and patch, where the security violation or security holes are. And again, especially in the residential areas where people don't have the IT guy, and it would just be an open security hole if it weren't able to be patched, but they were able to. I like that personally, but I can see the dark side of it as well.
Glenn, you have seen network security where they're not all good guys. The company thinks they're good guys. They hire them. They give them positions where they get access to way more data than they should have, especially in the mobile markets and the security markets, where it's like if the company can't 100% trust their employees who are responsible for that kind of information management at the government level, how do we keep the good guys in the government access to the router, but prevent like the rogue elements, which there's going to be some there. You can't say 100% of the security experts out there for the federal government are all good guys. There's a few bad eggs.
Well, even if they were all good guys, like
it
any
only
one
takes
of them could have their
one
email.
Bad guy. It only
any
takes
one of them could have
one
their
bad guy. If every router has a skeleton key, that federal officials with the right access could access every router. If there's a skeleton key like that, it only takes one bad egg.
What I'm trying to say is you don't even need one bad egg. You could have all good eggs, and some of the traffic between two of the good eggs could be intercepted by a bad guy and used against them. So I'm saying, like, even if they were all good, there's still problems where it could still be intercepted and used. But I mean, it's one of those things where there has to be a certain level of trust that is given. And when it comes to the network administrators, I mean, we've both been there. I mean, with great power comes great responsibility. Like when I'm a network administrator, I had access to every single email, every single file share, every single file everywhere, because if you get locked out of your stuff, I'm the guy who has to get you back into your stuff. So I have to be able to get in there. Now, that doesn't mean I go sit there perusing files for no reason. I mean, I only access things that I need to access when I need to access them. There were, in fact, some guys that did get fired at some point. This is going back over 20 years, but some guys did get fired because they were looking, this is at one of the investment companies, and somebody was jotting down what they saw as, they're working on someone's computer to try to fix something. They saw that he was in his, trading software and saw what trades that he had on screen and jotted down some company tickers. And that is not, I mean, even if I saw what he was doing,
that's where
I don't care.
Trading can start happening.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the SEC, people had to get involved. I mean, there was a whole thing about that, and he was gone immediately.
So if we do open up all our routers, say for this, and you're right, level of trust is super important here. I want to know there's not going to be some illegal search and seizure going on in my router or anybody else's, because he mentioned that, like, warrantless like entry into a router because we suspect there might be some bad activity, might be a botnet going on over here, and we need to get into your router, which gets us into your network. Let's see every computer that's there. Oh, you know what, we might need to actually index every file on every one of these hard drives. The potential for abuse, the potential for government overreach becomes bigger and bigger with every step we take here.
At the same time, they've already built the infrastructure around this, from all of the wiretap stuff, all of that type of thing. So the whole has to be court order, has to be, probable cause. I mean, there are rules in place. It isn't just the Wild West. Now, what we're saying is that once that backdoor is in place, it could be misused. It could be, again, the information could be intercepted by somebody. Somebody could just figure it out. I mean, there's all kinds of ways where there could be problems from that. But the question is, they're trying to start somewhere. It's good that they're having the conversation at least, and we have to come up with, something to stop, stop the progress, I guess, or the additional things that could have come from today going forward. You could build AI into some of this hardware that's coming over, and
well, and that becomes the scary thing is if it's AI and it's not a human, what's to say it doesn't go rogue one day and take advantage of all those skeleton keys. I am like you. The glass is half full. It's good that they're actually paying attention to it. It's good that they're trying to do something. That's better than just not doing anything. And my only concerns, just like with every other thing we talk about, is that they do it in a responsible, ethical way.
Yep, exactly. And it's worth having debate over also, because there are, that line can be moved. Like how much is overreach? How much is not enough, for them to be able to actively and effectively, protect in a situation where there is some kind of attack going on.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall on the committee who came up with these, and the national security side of it that said, like, we need this, because we're talking about some heavy duty security issues here. The legislators that have to come up with these decisions and make these laws are having to trust their national security advisors that, okay, you guys really need this, then we really need to do this in a law abided fashion.
And again, they could even just in the scenarios when they're talking about these things, they can, there are some legitimately scary scenarios that can come up with a lot of this stuff. I mean, that you're having, millions of devices, thousands of devices even is enough to cause a serious problem if they are able to activate and utilize all at once.
We went from denial of service attacks to botnets to I can't even predict what tomorrow's like cyber attacks are going to look like. They just keep mutating.
Yeah. And that's where, having something that is completely disconnected from the network is not a terrible idea. To have something that is just, that's going to be good unless there's an EMP.
And there are some work environments where having sandbox, non-networked, it's not even a nicety. It's a necessity.
Oh, yeah.
If you need to keep away from that dangerous internet because you need productive working machines that are just there to run other machines, but they don't need influence from an outside network.
Yeah. I mean, we had entire test networks where we had, the regular network has access to the internet and everything. We had separate network jacks under our desk that were just for the test network so we could get to these particular servers, but there was no access to the outside at all. So
see, I'm thinking like a lot of recording studios in the old days, I would have been like emphatic. You don't need internet connections in the machines for like actually doing recording. You need to be able to turn it on when you want to update the machine or something, but you want it off when it's actually working in the studio because you don't need notifications coming from Microsoft when you're in the middle of laying down a track.
Downloading updates, please wait.
Yeah. And any manufacturing place where these computers are running machines and they don't need external networks or internet access to do their job, then don't connect them to the internet at all.
And that's where it reminds me of Stuxnet, and
yes,
that's like, that's a perfect example of why, you don't necessarily need connection, and having connection can be a bad thing.
Yeah, I guess if I was building a nuclear reactor, I wouldn't necessarily want it online either.
Right. Good answer.
So at Lon Seidman, I love getting this into our channel list. He covers the gadgets and this kind of news really well, and new content almost every day. So worth a follow.
Nice. Good stuff.
And now, if I want to build a laser, Skillmake actually is a pretty cool channel to visit because this is a pretty cool laser that he put together here, at Skillmake. And again, I'm looking at I want to build that. I want to see that one built, but I don't know if I want to do the building. But these kinds of experiments and the science that we were looking at over the last couple weeks, my own laser gun, I've wanted one since Star Wars. And if it can actually do like this, I'm thinking like, man, maybe they could find a way to turn this into a lightsaber if
See, I was thinking lightsaber too, but the same thing is really hard. Like when it comes to lasers, like that beam is going. It's going that way and it's going that way forever because making it stop 2 feet from now, 3 feet from now, that's really tricky. But we'll see.
I know it doesn't work like that, like Hollywood, but it would be cool if it did.
It would be cool. We can agree on that. It would be cool.
And only 260 watts.
Nice.
This is a 5 milliwatt laser. Basically, it's just a toy. Also, this is a 5 watt laser, powerful enough to cut almost anything up close. Next, this is a 10 watt laser. I used it to build the laser gun in my last video and actually fired from a distance. But
life is this. I like this.
But this laser is this 260 watt laser, and in this video I want to try it. 260 watt. How is that even possible? As you know, making a single laser diode over than 20 watts is nearly impossible, because as the power increases, the temperature rises too, and eventually the laser diode melts itself. The secret is actually inside the laser itself. Instead of just one single laser diode, we've got 18 of them lined up in series, each putting out around 10 to 15 watts. The power gets added together using these mirrors, with one lens for focusing and another one for reflecting. The first 9 combine into one beam, the 9 on the opposite side do the exact same things. In the end, they all mix it together to rock this cubic prism to give us that sweet 260 watt of power. If you saw my last video, I used a prism just like this to combine 2 5 watt lasers. To get this laser working, I needed 34 volts. So I started looking at batteries. And I said batteries, not batteries. These right here are lithium iron phosphate cells, mostly used for solar panels. These little ones are just 2 amps, but these beasts give me 15 amps at 3.2 volts. I needed 4 of them to hit 12 volts. So I designed a little backpack case for them, and I printed out on the bamboo lamp. Added a 4-cell charger to keep them topped up too. But because the laser needs 34 volts, I added these 1050 watt boost module to set it up. Plus, with this dial, I can tweak the current, which directly controls how intense the laser gets. Guys, this is a highly dangerous build. For your own safety, please do not try this at home. Just enjoy the science. Yes, it's working! This laser generates so much heat, I can't keep it on for more than a few seconds without risking burning out the laser. So instead of just slapping on a regular fan and heatsink, I choose to design my own water cooling setup from scratch. First up, I designed it a water channel just like a radiator, along with a flat section to mount the laser. I carved it out of a 10mm pieces of aluminum on the CNC. But instead of just making one, I built two of these water blocks for maximum cooling. I sandwiched the laser between them using thermal paste for the best possible heat transfer. The main concept for this laser was that mounted round on my arm just like Iron Man. To get a perfect fit, I took a template of my arm and I designed the housing around it. I modeled custom section for the laser, the water blocks, the wiring, the cooling tubes, and a ton of other little details. After that, I imported the whole things into my Bamboo studio, making it super easy to set up all the multicolor parts. I printed these parts on my Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon. And big thanks for them to sponsoring this video. Seriously, if you want to turn your crazy ideas into reality, this is the way to go. You never have to stand there watching the print, hoping it doesn't fail. And there's no messing around with manual bed lowering. It handles everything automatically. If you've been around 3D printers, you know Bamboo Lab is pretty much the fastest out there. That's why I love Bamboo Lab. Everything fit perfectly. Just hit the link in the description of this video to buy one of this crazy printer. Now let's back to the project. For the other side, I actually repurposed a small car heater radiator with a water pump and a chamber to remove all the air bubbles out of the liquid loop. I ran all the hoses in series, added a super strong jet fan to blow the heat away. And that's it, ready to freeze the laser.
Look at that!
Okay, first test at 20% power. Oh my god, look at that. But hold on. When I said laser, the beam supposed to comes with it. So, where is that beam? The laser broken, or am I blind? Absolutely not. The secret is in this chart, the human visible spectrum. Our eyes can only see from 400 to 700 nanometers. And every single color has its own specific wavelength. For example, it says 650, so it should be red. And sure, it's red. Or this one says 450, which means blue. And it's perfectly blue. But this one, it runs on 950 nanometers, which is completely invisible to us. But there is a problem. I actually need to see where I'm aiming. So, I have an idea. Yep, I grabbed a visible laser and set it at a 90-degree angle using this prism. Now both beams are stacked right on top of each other. To focus the beam onto a tiny point, I added the glass lens. It absolutely has to be glass, because this laser would melt a plastic in a second. Also, I printed a safety shield on my lovely printer Bamboo Lab to protect my hand from any reflection. And finally, I added a relay and a switch to control the laser. And we are done. No more talking, let's get straight to the testing.
Yeah, no, I'm sturdy like a Millie Rocket. Skin clear, still look young, Andy Miller knockers, money in my pocket. Don't call me a money pocket, engine get your rocket. It sound like a thunder rocket, yeah. I still love my baby even when it's toxic. Crazy like she Britney, but no, she don't shade a knock. No, Russell Wilson way I get low and stay in the pocket. I get paid and do my dance like a touchdown. Yeah, I can't do no time, don't leave that gun around. In my teens, we were acting up and running around. Now we're grown, sticking to it if it's necessary. On the ground from January to January. Never met nobody who retired when they were young. So I guess I gotta get it to the cemetery. Getting paid just for rapping is fun. I lit up around a month in every February. Electric. Yeah, it's getting hectic. 777. Yeah. Total side, no electric. Yeah, it's getting hectic. 777. Yeah. 777. Couple of money in my head just to say they did it. Now I'm so paranoid and the windows spinning. I own everything around me, you can say it's rented. Not talking phone numbers when I'm talking 7 digits. Earn it by the day, every second minute. Used to pay me none, look, now they pay attention. Everybody say they drip, but I banded it. See them copy all the looks, but I stay switching, pick up the loot.
Whoa. Holy.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye.
Oh, I liked and subscribed.
Yes, indeed. Now I know I would be the same way. Like, I would go a little too far with some projects like that, like building a whole like Ghostbuster backpack and all that. I mean, I love it. I love it.
I wish I was back in high school and there was a science fair and I could actually build something like that for it. that would be like, and I'd do just like him. I'd shoot at everything. I'd see how it does with glass, with metal. Wild stuff there.
Does it blend? Does it laze? Yeah, that's the question. Can the laser melt this? Razor blades, cut them right in half? Sure.
We're not at pew pew yet, but we're getting there. If you can make it shoot little bursts, and if you can get them to light up like Hollywood, we are Star Wars.
Yep. There you go. Laser blasters.
Yeah, these are fun projects that he gets to build, and
I want a bamboo too. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, that bamboo. Like that's, hey Santa, like that. I could build an Iron Man suit with something like that.
Yep. I've seen some people, they 3D printed a Lamborghini or whatever. It's like yep, you can do that bit by bit.
And it does seem to be clean and fast. Like we are going to have a 3D printer night because I've been going down so many rabbit holes there. I would love to be able to do 3D printing and have my own CNC machine and carve up some metal and be a fun day.
And then a blacksmith forge at some point, make some swords and all that kind of thing. Yeah,
I'd love to make a sword.
Exactly.
Especially if I can make a laser sword. Hey, skill make. There's your next project.
Nice. Not just laser etched.
Yeah, that was fun. And I feel like I safely built a laser without blowing up the house.
Exactly. Now, can you imagine if, when we were kids, imagine having access to a bamboo and having access to all these kinds of things at that age with the curiosity that we would have had, like to build stuff. We'd be making all kinds of crap.
And I would be in a science fair. If I had those kind of toys, then yes.
Yeah.
Let's go win the science fair.
Making new science. Yeah.
So and to continue with lasers, this one's not a pew pew light kind of laser, but it's a sound laser, which I was like, I have heard of a couple of different techniques and things here. I mean, they're doing some crazy stuff with sound nowadays, and sound weapons, they're real. They're out there, and I'm wondering, like, is this something that would be a weapon, or possibly like a hell of a way to like push your song out on stage? Like, I'm gonna send it straight to your ears.
I like that image too. The shot glass up on the top there, like electricity branching through the glass.
Yeah, this one's coming from Electron Impressions, freshie for us. The only place I could find a sound laser, at least one that wasn't one of those like military grade crowd control ones, because it's possible this is a mini version. I don't know.
Yep.
But he made a sound laser, and I mean, it looks cool from this view.
Yeah. See what it's all about.
Yes, we're gonna have to crank this one.
Have you ever needed to yell out to someone far away in a crowd without causing a scene? You could use a megaphone to be loud enough, but while effective, it's hardly subtle and pretty much guaranteed that everyone in that crowd would hear you. After all, basic intuition is that sound should spread out in all directions from a source, reflecting and diffracting until it fills the space. But what if you could build a device that defies that intuition? It turns out that with simple electronics, it's actually possible to easily modulate sound onto an ultrasonic carrier wave, and this allows us to trick the air into delivering the audio only to a specific region in space. Today, I'm showing you how to build a device that does just that, breaking common understanding of how sound should work and allowing you to shoot sound as if it has both the directional precision and intensity of a laser. But before we get into the specifics of this device, how about we go over the principles of acoustic transmission in air that make using ultrasound so much different from audible frequencies. Now, the fundamental idea here is that directivity of a sound source is determined by how large that source is compared to the wavelength of sound it produces. If a speaker is small relative to the wavelength, which happens to be the case for almost all handheld devices playing audible sound, the waves diffract around the edges and spread out omnidirectionally. This means that to get a tight laser-like beam with normal audio, you would physically require a speaker face about the size of a billboard. And since I wanted this device to be handheld, I couldn't change the size of the source. But the easy workaround for this is to change the size of the wave. By jumping up to 40 kilohertz, our wavelength drops to just 8 millimeters. That means that a small, centimeter-sized emitter is now acoustically huge, a whole wavelength across, making high directivity transmission physically possible with just a single bottle cap-sized source. But we don't want just high directivity, we want super high directivity. And the only way to turn this general tendency for sound projection in the forward direction into a collimated beam is to mess around with another concept in wave mechanics, which is interference. By arranging multiple emitters into a parametric array, the parameter here being the spacing between emitters, and driving them all in phase, meaning they all push and pull the air in tandem with each other, we create a unified wavefront that is just about as powerful as the sum of its parts. This is called constructive interference. It's important to note that for an array that is in phase, this complementary action is strongest directly in front of the device, with the waves from every single transducer arriving at the same time and amplitude stacking perfectly on top of each other. But the real trick is what happens off to the sides. As long as that spacing parameter is set just right to 1/2 plus any integer times the wavelength that you're using, you'll get destructive interference that cancels out sound almost entirely off to the sides. Pretty cool, right? But even with a perfect beam, there's still an obvious problem. You can't hear 40 kilohertz. It's way above the audible frequency range for humans. So to make this actually useful, we have to rely on a property of air known as acoustic nonlinearity. Essentially, sound travels just slightly faster in high pressure air than in low pressure air. This means that when we pump out ultrasound at high enough amplitudes, the waves generated actually distort their own shape as they travel. And if we modulate our speech or even music onto that carrier wave correctly, that distortion forces the air itself to demodulate the signal, creating audible sound in midair. The effect of this is like having an invisible speaker positioned right in front of your target, making it seem to an observer almost as if the sound is being generated inside their head. It's a pretty surreal thing to experience. So now that we understand the working principles of this device's output, let's break it open to see how it works. At the very heart of this device, we have a 555 timer circuit, which is operating as an astable oscillator here, generating the 40 kHz square wave signal that will eventually drive our piezo transducers. To modulate or interrupt this carrier wave with the audible frequencies that we want to transmit, I simply wired one of the outputs of this Bluetooth audio amplifier into the trigger pin of the 555 timer. That way, when the audio signal is high enough to trigger, the square wave is altered for the relatively long duration of those peaks. Now, I've got to be honest, this is far from an optimized circuit, but as long as I carefully adjust the amplitude of that audio signal with this knob on the amplifier just right, it works decently well as a first iteration prototype, as you'll see later. I also ran into some grounding issues when building this in a rush many years ago, so while the audio amplifier is powered by just a 9V, the 555 timer circuit is actually separately powered by the 5V output of an H-bridge module that I picked up for just a few bucks. The modulated 40 kHz output of the 555 timer then feeds directly into the control pins of this same H-bridge. And what this does is basically amplify the low power 5V output of the 555 into a high power variable amplitude signal that will be capable of driving the whole array of transducers. I've allowed myself to adjust this output amplitude, basically how loud the device will be, just by turning the knob on the back panel, which by changing the resistance of a connected potentiometer raises or lowers the output voltage of a small boost converter that I have sitting right in between the H-bridge inputs and my main power source, a 12-volt nickel metal hydride battery. Then finally, we have the parametric array at the end of all that important circuitry. All 73 of these 8mm diameter piezoelectric transducers have been meticulously wire wrapped and soldered in parallel, with connections at the center that run back to be driven by those H-bridge outputs, as well as a toggle switch in series with this connection that allows me to turn the device on and off. For those interested, here's what the entire circuit diagram looks like. Now that's enough time for explanation. Let's go test it out to see how well it actually works. Now here's another cool thing this device can do. See this microphone and see that wall? It's no surprise at this point that when I stick the microphone in the direct path of the ultrasound beam, that the mic will pick up some music. But watch closely at what happens here. That's right. Because of the coherence of this beam, or the overlapping nature of the waves emitted, I can actually specularly reflect both the ultrasound and the demodulated audible sound it's carrying off of flat surfaces, just like reflecting a laser off a mirror. And since I've got to promote our product, watch the sound perfectly reflect off of one of our 32-inch diameter Lichtenberg figures. Let us know if you want one of these in the comments, by the way. Now these specular reflections are really cool, but there's one problem they actually create. When shooting the beam of sound indoors, the sound will tend to scatter dozens of times off walls and surfaces, diminishing the effect that we were originally going for here. To avoid this issue and truly give an idea of the scales over which this device can operate, let's go outside and see how well directional audio is picked up from over 100 meters or 300 feet away. Now, if you think this device is pretty cool and want to see an improved version in the future, just leave a comment and I'll use this to gauge people's interest and eventually get around to it. This is far from the only device like this out there, so if you have any interest in seeing what other people have done, I put a few links to great videos with similar designs in the description. I hope this video was somewhat informative on the mechanics and operational principles of parametric arrays, but if you're an expert on these devices and saw something wrong that I said, I would be more than happy to hear where my explanation could use some adjustment. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Oh, it's not a weapon.
Now, see, that's more of a laser speaker. I was thinking laser microphone, where it's actually picking up a conversation from a distance with a laser, but this is the other way. This is you're sending sound in a directed beam. Yeah.
And if it gives the impression like the music's going straight in your head, that's pretty cool. It reminds me of what is it, that bone conducting approach where it's like the music
vibrating
comes
the
from
bones
inside.
Exactly. The music is actually being generated in your head. And those Lichtenstein figures, that's what there was. The acrylic with the lightning going through. Very cool.
And actually at the beginning when he said, like, imagine if you could have a megaphone, that's when I started thinking like, oh, if you were like across a field and you wanted to like make it sound like you're right there in front of them, that could be useful in some scenarios.
Mm-hmm. And we've actually had to look at some of those, the constructive interference and the destructive interference and the spacing between speakers. Some of that comes up when you're putting subwoofers up. If you're putting a bunch of different subwoofers across and you want to cancel it out so you're not overwhelming the stage with the sound, you could actually have it where the speakers are there, but they're blocking, you're getting the sound to project the way he had that whole, center column going straight out, but not going out to the sides at all. You can be very directional with what you're doing if you get the interference just right and the spacing just right.
Oh, imagine having a couple of those on a stage aiming in different directions. And there's some interesting thoughts there.
The big one is the fact that he pointed out there. If it is indoors, then you're going to have too many reflections and it's just going to basically, mess it all or get it all muddy just from all the bounces because it's going to bounce a lot.
Yeah. And the acrylics look beautiful. I like that little promo there.
Very
I
cool.
would like one of those on my wall.
Yeah, for sure.
At Electron Impressions. I'm impressed.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and their link tree, I put that in the chat. That'll help you find the links. And for our last video, this Mac Neo, Google really wants me to get one because they keep throwing these ads at me like every other one. And I am intrigued for the price, and I have been considering getting a Mac again for a music replacement because I'm not sure where I'm going to go with Windows in the future. And I wondered, can you really get a music machine out of the specs that I've heard for these? I mean, they're pretty functional machines for the $500 range coming from Apple, but can they handle the kind of work that they're going to need to do in the music world? Audio Font, thank you for covering this because it's the first thing I was asking when I saw the ads for these things.
Yep, you were indeed.
Yeah, and at Audio Font, music production, film scoring, audio design, and audio technology reviews. And this is an important review to me. I don't want to suggest to someone who's looking to get a music machine the wrong machine. So what he comes to as a conclusion here is going to determine whether I suggest to somebody who says, I want to make some music and I need a Mac, but I only have $500. I might say get an old Mac still before getting one of these newer ones that's going to be possibly underpowered. Whereas a year or two ago, MacBook, you might be able to get for the same price. And
that's one of those things where, you probably would be better off, it depends, like it depends on what you're doing specifically. But to me, the real question comes down to, can this work as a music machine? And we're going to do the testing. You're going to see the testing that we go into here to see if it'll handle it. But there's also the question of, will it handle being a music machine and someone's primary machine? Because that's the other question that somebody might be trying to, I want to do everything with this. And then you're adding that extra layer of, you're going to do more, putting more storage on there, putting more things, you're having more things running every given time, not disabling all the things that you would normally disable for a pure music machine. But that's one of the considerations I would bring up as well when getting into that whole, if this is your primary machine thing.
Yeah, and given what we saw the couple weeks ago when we showed they debuted it, from the specs, it struck me more as a student machine. Like, if you really like your child that's going off to college, you might want to get them one of these instead of a Chromebook. It's definitely better than a Chromebook, and there's some possible video editing capabilities. I did see another video where the guy tested it for video editing, and it did the job. But music, strangely enough, in some cases, is going to be more demanding than even typical video editing these days.
Yeah, and it can be. And again, it depends on the projects you're doing and the size and how many tracks and all of that. But yeah.
Yeah, the reason why I like that he did it and what I see here is every DAW that would even be a consideration. Look, they got Fender Studio Pro in there, Glenn.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone that would be a consideration over on the Apple side, he's got all his ducks in a row here. These are all the ones I'm wondering about.
Yep. We got to check it out.
Which DAWs run best on the MacBook Neo?
Hi folks, Bruno here with AudioFont. Welcome to the channel. This video is to cover various different popular digital audio workstation DAWs, for short, music tools that allow you to record, to see if the MacBook Neo can run a lot of the popular DAWs that are out there. For those that aren't that familiar with the MacBook Neo, it's kind of an introductory lower cost laptop that Apple just introduced for $599 or $499 if you're a student. You get an 8 gig laptop, aluminum casing, in some cool colors, works really well for school use, for browsing, for watching videos, doing some productivity software, all those great things. What I want to do is actually test a lot of different DAWs and see if I can break them on here, see how many tracks you can get on these, or just even see if they even run at all. So there's chapter markers here, so if there's a favorite DAW or tool of yours, I should have it listed there. You can jump to it, jump ahead to it, and then feel free to stay at the end where I'm going to kind of give a final conclusion and talk about the one DAW that just really doesn't work, or I would never run on a Neo. But in general, I was overall very impressed with it. The only other pieces I would recommend is I used a Focusrite Solo to create audio and record audio, so a good audio interface. They do work on Neo. I'm going to have a separate video reviewing a few different audio interfaces and how well they work with the Neo. And I also highly recommend something like this hub. This USB hub. This one by Ugreen, I'll have linked below in the description. I like it because it has a power through and it also supports up to 10 gigabits per second on both USB-A and USB-C ports, and it also has an HDMI on there. And I just plug it into the top port usually, and you can put your drive and everything in there. And then I also highly recommend an external SSD or a hard drive, especially if you're doing music and you want to store a lot of virtual instruments. So you could save, this one's actually a 512 gigabyte storage on the laptop itself, so I went and spent the extra $100 for that. That's the only option that Apple gives you, is to upgrade to that. But they don't change the 8 gig of RAM that's in there, unfortunately, yet. But most folks have an external drive, even with 512 gig, you're going to run out of space eventually. I was able to run and install about 6 or 7 DAWs. I kind of forget the count now. They're all on here. They all run. And it's only taken up probably about 100 gig of storage on here. So with a 256 gig drive, you start to feel it. Not so with the 512. I didn't install all the optional like loops and loop packs and sound packs and instruments on here directly. Again, that's why I recommend the external drive. You can install the, I have loops, I have virtual instruments all installed there. And the only other thing I would recommend is a MIDI keyboard, especially if you're going to be punching in some notes and some music into your DAW. So with that, let's get started. All right, folks. So I'm going to test out Fender Studio Pro, previously known as PreSonus Studio One. Fender bought PreSonus a while back and now rebranded the new version of Studio One to Fender Studio Pro 8, but pretty much the same exact tools. And so the first piece I just want to show real quickly is if you did want to do some basic film scoring on the MacBook Neo and you use Studio Pro. I'm not going to do this with every DAW here, but this is a common use case for me and I thought might be useful. Very quickly, just to show you that it does work. So I just had created my own little AI film that I scored my own music to. I did that so for copyright reasons I couldn't use any other films to do that. So there you go. So it basically works pretty well. You can, play instruments and record to it, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it works pretty well. We'll talk about track limits and stuff in the next piece where I'm going to go just through the audio part of the Studio Pro. Okay, so now we're back into Studio Pro just with the audio tracks here, and it is a combination of and actually try to use free VST instruments. Please check out that video. I have one on free VSTs and free virtual instruments that you can use in your DAWs as well. So I'm using some contact tools. I'm actually using Spitfire Labs as well, and some audio WAV files as well. So it's a combination of different, different tracks here. Real Basics only got 5 tracks here. You saw it playing during the film scoring piece if you watched that, but it should work pretty well. Okay, so it works here, and now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to basically take the tracks and I'm going to duplicate them and try to build up as many as I can until we basically can break the system. So we're going to stress test it next with Studio Pro. Okay, folks, so I've been duplicating tracks. I got into the 40s and was sounding okay, but then I could once in a while hear some crackling, some popping. We'll see if it happens now when I play it here. Yeah, you can hear it. So 50 is where it really breaks completely. But like I said, lower 40s, I was okay. As soon as I added the last 5 tracks, I started having problems. So when I just went above about 45, I started having major problems. But yeah, I mean, it works pretty well. 45 tracks is plenty to kind of write music and record and all that great stuff in Studio Pro. So impressed with that. Impressed with how well the Neo can manage the memory and allow this to work. Okay, so loaded FL Studio here as well, and have created just some tracks here with basic beat, some contact instruments, Spitfire Lab instruments as well, a couple of WAV files, audio files as well. And so let's take a listen and see how well that works. Okay, so FL Studio works pretty well as well on the MacBook Neo. Okay, for the stress test for FL Studio, I was able to get it about 55 plus tracks, which is actually really good. I don't have my camera turned on. I was trying to, because it would start stuttering as well. Again, remember your mileage may vary because depends on the types of tracks you have. But I do have, as you can see, 11 copies of each of the 5 tracks. So it's 55 tracks here. And you can play it here for a second. And hear if it. Little pop. So just slight crackling and popping. But so, pretty sure, 50 plus is about the comfortable zone for you, if you stay under 50 tracks, which is a lot, especially for FL Studio. So again, proving that the MacBook Neo can run a lot of these DAWs pretty well. Okay, so I just loaded up Ableton Live. All I had to do was authorize it. I loaded up some demo file that it had with some tracks on it, including some drums and some instruments, as well as some vocals. And here you go. You can listen to how it sounds. Seems to work pretty well.
What I need
So, sounds pretty good. Like I said, works pretty well. So, no issues with Ableton Live on the MacBook Neo. Okay, so now we're going to try Cubase elements. I'm going to do, again, similar to some of the other tests that we're doing here, a mixture of tracks of Contact instrument, Spitfire Labs instrument, some wave and audio files in here, so kind of a mix. So shouldn't have a problem. I loaded up no problem, put in the instruments and played them no problem. So we'll just take a listen, see how it sounds. Okay, so that works fine. Now we're going to start stress testing it. So I'll be back in a second as I duplicate the tracks here. So I got it up to about 55 tracks, and it's still running okay here. So give it a. All right, so I'm able to do 55 tracks, but this is where it stops on me. So if I selected 5 more tracks, I try to go to 60 tracks by duplicating these 5 tracks. So we're at 55. So I'm just going to select those 5 tracks and duplicate them. So it should go up to 60, and still I think we're okay. And now if I duplicate it again, so we have 60 tracks there, you see. If I duplicate them again, or I try to, this is where it stops me, I believe. Yep, there we go. So it basically stops me at a 60 track count as well. So not sure if that's the limit of the license for Cubase Elements. You guys can tell me in the comments. But the fact that I can run 60 tracks on here and use my recording software shows you that Cubase can perform pretty well, even on this limited amount of memory on the Neo. So so far, I've made 6 copies of 7 tracks. Again, a combination of, audio tracks and MIDI, using some heavier and lighter mixes of Contact instruments and Massive X. And I still actually am pretty good. Starting to have a little issues when I try to stop and pause. Let's hear it now. You'll hear. I'll get some crackling and things like that. So that's kind of where the breaking point was. Probably around the 40 track mark. Again, your mileage may vary. Okay, so here we're going to do something similar with Logic Pro. So number 1, it loads up okay. Number 2, I've got pretty much the same set of tracks here. Audio track,
using an internal Logic Pro instrument, some contact instruments, as well as a massive instrument, some drums. So, 7 tracks, kind of like the other one, and should play without a problem. So let's hear it. Okay, sounds pretty good. Now we'll do the next step, which is going to basically copy off this and create multiple sets of it and try to stress out the system and see how many it takes till it basically breaks. Okay, and I think we have our answer here. I ran 35 tracks and it went okay. And now I just copied another 7 tracks. We're at 42, similar to what we had on Reaper. And as you can see, as soon as it hits some songs, it overloads here. So we're basically hitting a similar threshold. So comfortably probably 35, maximum close to 40. You're going to start seeing these kind of issues. But hey, again, for an 8 gig laptop that's basically $600, it does a pretty good job. So okay, so when trying to run Pro Tools, the first message you get is that you can't run the video engine. That's fine. I think that's just a standard issue problem with Pro Tools on Apple Silicon in general. Had some issues running Pro Tools. Actually froze at one point when I only had 8 tracks running. I have a limited edition of it here, so I can't really max it out too much, but I am able to get about 10 or 12 tracks. I can get 10 or 12 tracks running on here. So I guess it's okay for, small workloads, or if you're just going to do some mastering with some final audio files, so you don't have too many audio files in here. But I don't think Pro Tools is really optimized that well in general for the Mac, and has some trouble on the Neo with the 8 gig, so it struggles a bit. So probably would be the only one that I've tested so far that I wouldn't recommend running on the Neo. But if you need it and you only have a few files and you just want to have the tool available, you can give it a shot. Hey folks, hope that was helpful. Some surprises there with Pro Tools not running at all pretty much, and all the other ones really doing pretty well. I gotta hand it to Apple. This MacBook Neo, for a low-cost entry type of laptop, is built pretty solid, works really well. It's very snappy, and you can actually do some studio work on it. It's a great little portable laptop to bring with you on the road and just kind of sketch out some ideas and even do some work on it if you want to, especially if you're new to this hobby, profession, whatever. Please feel free to comment below if there's anything I missed or anything you'd like to discuss, and subscribe, like. I appreciate it. It helps me build up this channel and produce more content like this for you, and hope to see you on the next one.
Oh, you didn't miss a beat. Answered everything I wanted to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And good to, and again, on 8 gigs, that is impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. He's right that, like, for what you're paying, I mean, you shouldn't over expect. You're getting pretty good results there. I like the stress test approach he took with each one. He had a nice variety of different style tracks, some VST instruments, some audio, MIDI. That would be like a typical scenario for me. 40 to 60 tracks, a little bit of all of that.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, for you, it's not just multiple copies of the same thing to stress test. For you, those are actually all tracks. Like, they're actually all in there.
Well, and he also made a good point that your mileage is going to vary depending on your project and your songs and the length of them. The really interesting thing there, seeing Logic and it's Pro Tools, yes, not surprised that it didn't run that great on a low end Mac. Never does on the low end ones. On the high end ones, the only reason I'd be using Pro Tools is over on the Mac side. It sucks on the Windows side. So It probably won't work with an 8 gig configuration and a lower end the video that it's not compatible with yet because Apple's taking their sweet time there. I wouldn't even want a machine like this to do something like Pro Tools editing.
Right. At that point, you're already on a more professional level machine.
Yeah, and Logic, I was a little surprised. I thought it might be more efficient because it is like made for Mac, native to it. It seems like it recognizes when it's getting resource overload, and that's the message you start getting when you get to too many tracks on Logic. The other ones they won't tell you they're overloading. They'll just overload, and you'll hear the cracks and pops. And I'm really surprised how far he got with Cubase. Cubase is kind of heavy on the Windows side, but Steinberg's been doing some homework on the Mac architecture.
Nice. Yeah. Solid test all around.
Yeah. Reaper would be the one that I'm curious on all platforms because that's the one I kind of want to use on all platforms.
Exactly. That's a good choice.
Yeah. Awesome testing there. Exactly what I wanted to know when I heard about this Neo.
Exactly. And, the space is another thing where, the one model, they said 256 gigs, I think, and the other one was 512. Like the upgraded one was 512. To me, that's light for storage. But again, you can expand storage externally. We've talked about that. So.
Well, if you're going to buy one of these, it's worth the extra $100 to go with the 512 one. Because the other thing with the 512 one, if you do want to use the fingerprint, or what is it, the recognition, Apple has their way of like protecting it with biometrics, and you only get that option with the 512 upgrades.
Right. I used to like that actually with, I want to say it was one of the ThinkPads, back a while ago.
Yeah. IBM kind of revolutionized the idea of, my fingerprint, I can use this computer.
Yeah. I kind of liked that when it was there.
Yeah. And I would like to utilize like biometrics in that. If I never had to remember another fucking password for anything, if I could just do this, it would be worth it.
Yeah. And again, we've, the technology's there for sure, because they were doing that already, 30 years ago when we were doing, some of the investing stuff. They had to actually authorize with a thumbprint and actually a card, like it was a barcode scanner, but scan this card and thumbprint, and then they can do their trades,
Yeah. That's the industry where they actually started incorporating that going back almost to the 80s. I mean,
yeah. This was in the mid 90s when I was doing it, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We will definitely do a security night once I flip myself around.
There he is.
We'll definitely do a security night, and the biometrics and the new options that you have nowadays is something that I've been wanting to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. And I am a fan of the whole thumbprint for security, like whether it's the phone, the phone does remember the password, so I can just sit there and here's my thumbprint and boom, I just get into whatever. And I get that, yes, if I was incapacitated, somebody could use my thumbprint and get into my stuff. But if I'm incapacitated and they've got my phone, I've got other problems already.
If they don't get my thumb, they'll get my password some other way.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's supposed to be 100%, but at the same, the whole fraud protection thing, it's kind of like with bank accounts. Like in the early days, if you had, someone stole your identity, like you had to go through all these hoops to prove something, but it happened so often that now it's like, you just, somebody stole my identity. That wasn't me. And it's very easy to, get out of that situation.
The funny thing, the first time that I had a bank account compromised, I was in Texas, and the bank that I was using had this new debit card with your picture on it. And the whole thing was like, it's even more secure because it's got your picture on it. It can't be used unless person using it sees you and it's that picture. And that card got hacked, and somebody bought like $3,500 worth of Radio Shack shit in Jersey.
That was me.
Yeah, it's like, damn.
A whole batch of Heath kits. Yeah.
Yeah, go figure. I had the supposed most secure credit card you could have, at that time, and I wasn't impressed with the security at all.
And that's the thing is the picture on there, that's all great until until credit cards are accepted online, because all of a sudden nobody's looking at the picture because it's just numbers now. So they built it for, an industry that was changing and they weren't ready for that.
What was even crazier is I would have thought they were using it through some like online ordering. They were actually buying in the store with a counterfeit card.
Oh, wow.
That had my magnet strip. It didn't care about the picture. And go figure, this was at Christmas time. The worst
Everything's
time
busy.
of year that security gets compromised everywhere. It was right at the end of November after Black Friday. They cleaned me out of $3,800 in about an hour and a half.
And that's the thing is, again, today that happens, they're able to reverse that stuff very quickly. It's obviously not you, it's somewhere completely far away, blah, blah, blah,
Some of them will reverse it very quickly when they realize that it's going on. But when they drain the 3,800 before the bank realizes there's a problem, it took me 3 months to get that $3,800 back.
Yeah, and nowadays it would more likely flag up as unusual activity and even not allow it before it even goes through. It might text, like for my bank, for example, I might get a text saying, "Hey, do you recognize these last 3 transactions or whatever?" And you can either say, "Oh yeah, I recognize all of those," or "No, this is fraud," and you can nip it in the bud right there.
When I moved here in 2020, the first week I had problems with they're all bank debit credit cards. None of them worked the first week I was here because everywhere I tried to use them, it was like, "No, you're in Connecticut. You're not in Maine."
Yeah. And in your case, you probably didn't have a cell phone active at the moment to be able to have them, immediately.
Yes. In the case of my PayPal debit card, I had to go to PayPal and change my address.
Yeah.
They had me still in my Connecticut address. So they were like, "Nope. No other state. I can't use it."
He lives here. He can't be there. Good stuff.
Yeah, we will do a security night. That's on the to-do list.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's tech, sometimes security. Like we figure it out. But there's always something cool to go and check out.
Yeah, and there's news every week it seems now. So we're going to be keeping up on a lot of that. Some of the groundbreaking stuff, like these lawsuits we saw tonight, these are setting precedents, changing time.
Oh, yeah. Other cool stuff, like getting a bamboo. I want to get a 3D printer. I mean, I would be dangerous. Like I already don't have a lot of room here, and I would just be making more stuff to take up more space. And it's like, I don't know if that would really help, but it would be fun.
Yes, I want one.
Maybe next time, or maybe they'll send us one.
Yes, if we ask very, very nicely.
Bamboo for Christmas.
So we'll be back next Monday with Wally, and on Tuesday, Wes Lovedoll, our residential rocker, is going to be giving me a special listening party to his Ace Frehley tribute album that he just came out with. So
nice.
You're going to get a cool little sneak peek into a guitarist that I'm a big fan of.
All right, very cool.
And
is
then
it Tuesday for that?
Yeah, Tuesday night, and then Ange will be back on Wednesday to whip it. It was a party last night.
And you guys recovered okay?
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't have to drive home drunk, at least.
There you go. All the way over to the other chair.
Yeah, it's a long ways.
Well, thanks for everybody for coming out, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep, we'll be back again next Thursday.
Take care.
Night, everyone.
We cover digital, audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear and MIDI too. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device. We'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam, with the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking